learning how to write. I was learning the craft.
Well, shit, a lot of these stories would make really good, books.
I actually started with poetry as a kid because I like the rhyming stuff. So I used to write poems and stuff as a kid.
Where I cut my teeth and learned a lot was from reading a bunch of the screenwriting books and then writing a bunch of crappy screenplays.
Ever since I can remember writing, I started writing stories.
I think writing becomes like a drug. Like once you start, it's really hard to actually stop yourself.
Instead of going out with your friends, you're inside chasing the dragon of having breakthroughs with stories and characters and finding those perfect lines.
Use the rhythm of the story to, control how the audience sees the story.
And if you just read the words on the page, you're not engaging in it.
You can tell more of a story with a facial expression than you can from a huge word balloon taking up half the panel.
Sometimes as a writer, you wonder what the hell you're doing.
If you ever think that, am I just making, in the Kantian sense, am I just making this up? Am I really alive? Am I really experiencing? Am I just an illusion?
The problem with fiction is reality.
You do not want your reader to feel let down.
I can do this. I think I can do this, but I want to do this.
Like when you give somebody a piece of poetry, and it can be someone who hates poetry, and then they read it, and you see that light hit, and you go, oh, I did it. Hello and welcome everyone to the season finale of season 1 of Writing Prose. You guys are epic. Thank you for hanging out with us for 20 damn episodes of this, where we all just act like jackasses, like we know what the hell we're talking about.
I know nothing.
So today is kind of a cool episode. We had a bunch of people that were reaching out and saying that they wanted to hear Will's take or Luke's take or Frankie's or Justin's or Pastor Luke or a variety of other people that we've had on the show. They want to hear their take on their own writing. And so we had you all send in a couple of submissions, and I'm happy to say it wasn't like one submission and then I got to feel like an asshole. So thank you everyone who sent in stuff. And we're going to kind of go around and read some stuff, give our opinions on it. And if anybody has any critiques or anything that they want to kind of point out, we will go into it. Justin, I hate you so much. I was just about to kick it over to you to introduce yourself. You change your stupid name. All right, so we'll go around the room like we always do. Everyone can introduce themselves, the projects that they're working on. Justin, you are up.
Hi, I'm Dutton, writer and creator of Unstitch, Chapter 1. It's on Indiegogo. Go back it. We are like 9 pages deep on Chapter 2, coming out next year. And some wise advice, never moon someone from England, because you never know who's a werewolf. Back to you, Shae.
Wow. That's cool. All right. Pastor Luke, you are up.
Hey, my name's Luke, and I am the writer and artist behind a book called Hybrids, The Sons of Gods. It has 21 days left on Indiegogo, and I'm like $400 and some away from funding that book. So maybe check that out. Yeah. So check out lukestonestudios.com and click that link, and so we can do that. And find me on the social media, poke me on the book, and talk to me on Twitter.
Sweet. William.
Hello, I'm William, and I work on a book called Black Flag. I am the co-writer, scripter, general slave of Dan Frege. And as you heard him say tonight, we're about a third of the way through laying out the book. And if you know anything about Frege, that means it will be done fairly quickly once it's laid out. Mm-hmm. So we are still available. I know you spent all your money on warts and all, and there's not much out there, but there's still time to come in back Black Flag.
Hell yeah.
Degenerate
Luke.
I'm sorry, what was that?
I got to differentiate because I got Luke and Luke. So I got Pat.
Yeah. I resemble that remark. It's all right.
Oh, okay.
I am also Luke. I'm Dark Luke. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Death Metal Hero, as the name says here. I'm an artist, a writer. I'm working on Shae's horror anthology. I've got a cyberpunk story that I'm working on, and I've got another show that I'm kicking around in the back of my head that I'm going to unleash on y'all very soon. So stay tuned. Hit the bell for notifications. Oh, and I do the sing along of Doom.
And topicless.
What?
And topicless.
Oh yes, that tomorrow night actually is going to be on my channel. Thank you. I would have remembered later. Probably would have remembered halfway through what Frankie was going to this.
Sure.
Yeah, you know.
It's fucking terrible.
Yeah, tomorrow night at 9 on my
better than you.
Terrible at this.
All right, Frankie.
I am Frankie, writer of Through the Woods. Hard graphic novel is still available in demand on Indiegogo.
Short, sweet, to the point.
And by the way, Wolverine, Dan actually did get a cease and desist from Black Flag in the 90s, which is why he changed it briefly to Black Seed. So, yes, it was a Roach Spray who tried to sue Dan Fraga.
I thought it was the band that tried to sue Dan Fraga.
It was a Roach Spray, too.
For fuck's sake.
So,
what are they going to do? Make a comic book about, like, Black Flag Man who kills the roaches for you? Like, really?
hence Black Seed, which isn't as cool as Black Flag.
Well, no.
I mean, it was going to be a comic on TV Party tonight.
So,
yeah.
Answer old Wolverine's question. Now you can put a shirt on.
And I'm, of course, Shae the Red. I obviously have this channel. I also am the editor for Absolute, and we just did some pretty epic giveaways a couple hours ago with the very amazing Jason Bascom, as well as I have a 7-page short story in the Kill Journal. So if you haven't gotten on that mailing list, make sure you do. It's going to be launching very, very soon. And you definitely don't want to miss out. So that is the panel so far. Let's see if anybody else decides to drop it. I had like a bunch of people that were like, yeah, I'm going to be there. Send me the email with all of the writings. And then...
By the way, I'm glad Phil said it first, and I'm not only sick prick in here.
Yeah. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Phil. I Borrow Ideas still says that it was rigged, the giveaways that we did with Jason.
Why? Because you won?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also backed him for a third time, so suck it, okay? I won it fair and square. I can't. I'm sorry that the spinner wheel liked me.
Hey, you won't hear any complaining from me.
Well, you weren't even on the list. So. Anyway.
Exactly. They won't hear any complaining from me.
All right. So the way that we're going to kind of do this is we're going to kind of round robin and read some of the pieces that we got sent in, and then we'll all kind of talk about it. So one of the first bits that I wanted us to start with is one that isn't actually a piece. It is an idea that somebody had for writing a novel. And I'll just read out what they sent to me. And you guys can let me know how you feel about it. Yay, nay, if you feel like there's obvious questions or issues with it immediately, or whatever you think. So he says, here's my idea for a story I never really did anything with. I always wanted to write a story comic book about a group of musicians that dress like characters from children's serials called the Imbalanced Diettes. They travel the country playing thrash, kindy metal. Kindy or kitty? I don't know if that's a typo or not.
Kitty. Yeah. Kitty metal.
Kitty metal. I don't even know what that is. I don't know what thrash kitty
kid-friendly metal.
What is it? Josie and the Pussycats, but with metal. Boom.
Okay.
Kitty?
They travel the country playing thrash kitty metal during the day at kids' parties and fought crime at night. Their powers came from the magic costumes they wore. They got powers of whatever mascot's costume they had all covered up. Comments, questions, thoughts?
Isn't that Kiss?
And they actually did a comic.
Oh yes, Psycho Circus, right?
Had everything. Kids had a comic. They had an animated movie. They had all kinds of.
I saw the Scooby Doo one. It was awesome.
Landfill to hoard all their crap.
I saw the Scooby Doo one. It was awesome.
I think that if it is a if it's supposed to be tongue in cheek, then I think it could work.
Yeah.
But if you're being serious about that, I think that there also might be some problems with copyright for the serials.
It would depend. I think it would depend on if you did real serials or you made them up.
Yeah, if you made them up.
Yeah, you.
But then you have to make sure that you don't unintentionally make up like a multi-mill cereal, because those are pretty much
This
like
is the original generic.
right
all over the place. Yeah.
I think if the book's aimed for kids, it's good. I mean,
Yeah.
it sounds like fun.
It does, yeah.
Yeah, it would take the idea would take some finessing and some smoothing, but I think it could work.
To me, it depends on how funny the lyrics are at the kids' parties. Like if he used that for like joke scenes, for like boom, like having what is it, like Tony the Tiger type person mascot, just like head banging and then just singing something about well balanced diets. Yeah.
People get COVID.
I think it could be, funny, but yeah, I think Mighty Mascots might have done this story a little better.
I'm still intrigued by this thrash kitty metal.
Yeah, I kind of.
How?
Yeah, I kind of want to see how you would depict that in a comic specifically. How would you depict thrash kitty metal in a comic book?
Yeah, that's
so like
sheet music on the back. Just get an idea.
Yeah.
You would have to release
you would
a
draw
compendium
people
album
like
with it.
head banging or like
Oh yeah, it totally have to be like a metal
acting like yeah.
I know
very
the kitty
catchy,
part
like pop metal.
Like I could see you doing thrash metal, but like
well, the whole thing with the mascots, that's the balance. Like, are you gonna like rip the sleeves off the mascot outfit and they've got like gauntlets on like this and they're playing music to the kids? Is that what's going on? Because
it's all going to have to be in the style. I mean, I think that's where you'll get the death metal, and maybe the kitty. Maybe you could use like bright colors and primary colors, geometric shapes. Maybe have little math problems on your costume. I don't know.
Oh Lord.
2 + 2 = 4.
A better cartoon.
It would be a great cartoon.
And yeah, I think that depicting musicians in a comic book in a way that's going to get across like the feel of the music, that's always pretty tricky.
Always. Trying because
I always
you
think
can't hear
has
it.
anyone
yeah.
Has anyone read Sex Criminals by Matt Fraction?
Yes.
Yep. Like he has one issue where he was gonna have like the main character like karaoke at a bar sing like a Queen
They were
song.
gonna do Queen. They were gonna do.
And it's
Bohemian
all like
Rhapsody.
music levels, but like but the whole dialogue is like, oh, we submitted for copyright use. They didn't get back up with us. Still waiting. It's due for print. It's too late. They finally sent it, but it's too late.
Yeah, I remember.
Like it was a
reading
whole joke of how they were like, we wanted to use this song and have her sing this song,
This
but
epic
we couldn't get
song
in
and
time.
dance number. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
What do
that
you-
whole thing was
What
played.
do you
for-
think? Well, you're pretty quiet over there.
I think you guys said everything I was thinking.
Okay.
I do agree that I don't think it would be a good comic. I think it would be like something on Comedy Central or like a Nickelodeon show.
Yeah.
Because like I said, you can't. Like you said it. You can't depict something so dependent on sound in a comic and make it effective.
Yeah.
Right? If the whole
Just gotta
thing is
figure it
about
out.
these musicians, and if you're going to do some kind of cross promotion from the music, because that's kind of what you're doing, you're going to have a multi format sort of thing, right? So you're going to have music, you're going to have cartoon or whatever, or comics.
Mm-hmm.
The music's going to do a lot of the work, and I'm assuming if you like this thrash kitty metal thing, that music is driving you.
Yeah.
Right. So why not do it in a format that you can actually have music?
Yeah.
Seems like a waste of
Like a
an
digital-
idea to do it in comics.
Like a digital comic, maybe we could implement sound.
Yeah, that too, like a flash comic.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Definitely.
So my problem is the format.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the story, I don't know. I mean, we're talking about metal musicians who don costumes that have powers. So I don't know. We're not talking anything realistic here. So,
Kiss are real.
Yeah, to themselves. Or Mossad.
Oh wow. Yeah, I agree. I definitely think it would probably make a better comic than it would, or a better cartoon than it would a comic.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to one of the actual pieces of writing that we got. So, The Feast. Who wants to read The Feast? Justin? All right, read everything except for who it's by. I'm trying to keep all of this anonymous.
Yeah.
Oh, it's a pretty cool name. We should read the name. It's a cool name.
The Feast by someone y'all don't know. Upon the river Animus, I did witness some nights past. Sight quite queer to say the least. 3 small creatures enjoy a feast. A rare thing to see for one such as me. We swam these waters incessantly. But just along the spattered bank, where expired spruce beetle sank, there sat a table draped in lace, and atop a turtle's copy-paste? Oh,
Carapace.
Carapace.
Like armor.
Okay, that makes sense.
Like natural armor, basically.
Yeah. Back to the poem. Parked a furtive trio, plain to see, a toad, mouse, and dog prairie. They gobbled bugs as they sat atop cobbled chairs.
Adirondack?
Adirondack.
And there, yeah.
Adirondack.
Google it.
It's a chair.
Yeah,
An Adirondack chair.
That's what that is?
I believe you guys.
I mean, is that a chair?
Yeah, it's a type of chair.
It's a mountain range too.
It is, dude.
It's
a whole region.
The things, you know what? I like this poem even more because I'm learning things that I did not know. 2 words of the day. Back to the poem. Triumphal, they did dine till dawn, where fungal blossom floats along. So heartily they ate and drank, where all fell asleep, inebriated. Their end came. Oh my God, this dude is really good at big words. I shouldn't have said it.
Surreptitiously.
So, yeah, that
Surreptitiously.
Okay.
Surreptitiously.
Man, I have a. Yep.
Yep.
As I dove upon this tragedy, a squinch, crunch, and then a crack, I quickly munched that napping pack. Limbs, sinew, then blood would spill free. Men friends at a venue they loved recently. With the garnishing of teeth, it all came to an end. Their last supper concluded where mine would begin. I consumed every bite, and then I would descend to the depths of pike. My aspect is grim. A poem by somebody.
I was about to say, you kept reading. I was like,
about to mute you.
I was like, because you were about to do like a Ron Burgundy where you're like, I'm just reading what's on the teleprompter. I'm like, stop.
All right.
I love the cadence.
Huh?
I like the cadence of the poem.
Yeah, I
Scheme,
think
the rhyme scheme.
is really well done. I also kind of like, so you can't see it for the people who who aren't looking, but it kind of looks almost like a keyhole.
Yeah.
Which I thought was kind of neat.
Good formatting, dude. Dig it.
Yep, I like the poem. I realize I can't say some words though. It's okay.
It's okay. Words are hard.
You know, running across some of those words for the first time in print is daunting. Hearing them in an audiobook is much easier. And then you see them later and you're like, oh, that's that word.
Yeah, that I always mispronounce words. There's more than one reason that Shae didn't want to read all of these. One of them being I didn't want to be the one that mispronounced things. I still will. It's still gonna happen.
I mean, I learned 2 new words today, so congratulations.
Hail to learning.
The more you know.
So what did you guys think of the content of the poem?
I like it. It was if you didn't butcher the words, it's a fun read. It has a nice flow.
I don't know, I read everything into everything incorrectly, as Justin knows. So I probably got out of it something that probably wasn't even there.
What'd you get out of it?
Well, the first line kind of tips you off, right? Which is the river animus, which is what Latin for soul or spirit, or breath. And then it goes, and after you give that line animus, it goes down to this regress of a hierarchy of consumption of energy, right? So you have like the some nights small creatures enjoy to feast. So they're eating beetles and other bottom feeders, and then you have 3 other bottom feeders eating them, which is a mouse, a dog, a prairie dog, and a toad. And then presumably the biggest bottom feeder, the human, comes on and jumps on them. You know what I mean? And starts eating them, and there's like this infinite regress of consumption that goes all the way around, all the way to the bottom.
But
I thought that was
human?
Huh?
Was it a human?
It never says what it is.
They swim the river, right? So they swim the river incessantly. So
a squish, a crunch.
Yeah, but at the
right, you're right. It never says it's a person.
yeah,
I'm just
but at the
assuming
very
maybe.
end is like I consumed every bite, and then I would descend to the depths a pike. My aspect is grim, so assume like the end of being hunted, which leads to man being the next person, like beetles, mouse, prairie dog, toad, assuming crocodile.
Poem about
Man.
the circle
And
of
they're
life.
eating on a turtle's shell, which is an infinite regress. If you know anything about, like, for example, Hindu creationism, where they just believe in 3 elephants sitting on top of a turtle shell that goes all the way down and never stops. So that to me spoke of that, like an infinite regress of consumption. But I don't know. I could be fucking wrong. It's a pretty dreary poem. I mean, that's not a bad thing. This to me is not something that's uplifting.
No, this poem's a whole damn mood. I love it.
The only thing that gives me hope is the first line, where he just admits that they're souls, because there's a river that are pushing all these spirits down it to be eaten by something.
Its delivery kind of reminds me a bit of some of the stuff that Neil Gaiman would do in Sandman, when he was, especially going to like different cultures and whatnot. They'd use a poem to tell a story, from a different time period. If it's a tribe in, ancient BC or whatever. He would do stuff like this to get the point across. So I kind of dig it.
It makes me want to watch Lion King.
The circle of life.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, boom.
Okay. Nice.
It's a circle.
Well, I mean, it kind of does speak to the circle of life. That was one of the things that I noticed about it.
Yeah. I don't know. I thought it's funny because when I first started reading it, I was like, oh, that sounds kind of nice. And then I got to the end, I was like, oh.
It's one of the things I like about it.
Oh, there goes all my hopes and dreams. Of it
Yeah,
being
one of
nice.
the things I noticed is kind of like these creatures didn't have their guard up. That that being that you can feast, but you never know when something's going to come along to feast on you. So yeah, have your good times, but
Don't get complacent in them.
yeah, that's kind of what I was catching from that.
Yeah, I like it. It's a very good poem. I like I said, it sets a mood, as Luke said. Do I does it suit my temperament? No, I'm not this dreary. where life is concerned, but I can see how some people would be in these day and age who would write a poem just like this.
Makes me excited for Thanksgiving.
And it also requires you to pay attention all the way through. You can't just half-ass read it. You have to pay attention to what's being said. Otherwise you'll be lost. You won't be able to figure out what's going on.
Well, and having the word choice that he used, and like the places that he chose to be specific and the places that he chose to be less specific, it's all kind of interesting, because like the second he starts like atop cobbled chairs, Adirondack, or whatever.
Adirondack.
Adirondack.
The chairs.
Adirondack.
I'm gonna Google that word.
So that instantly, because if you've ever like looked up like outdoor furniture and stuff like that, you've seen these chairs because it's a really, really popular style. And so the second I read that, it instantly changes what the viewpoint is in my head. You can't sit in that chair and sit perfectly upright. When you sit in those types of chairs, you're lean back.
Lean back.
Yeah, okay, I get it now.
Your guard's down.
And if you think about it, if something were to attack you and that's the chair you were sitting in, how fucked are you? Like, you can't move easily in that chair. They're hard to get out of. You gotta like slide to the edge, and then
your guard is down. Your guard is down.
Yeah, and so that's like the epitome of having a lowered guard and feeling completely comfortable in your surroundings. And it's not too long after that, and he's talking about, oh, triumphal they did dine till dawn. Like, oh, look at how like they're just so confident that everything is perfectly fine, and they're so confident they're safe, that like Luke had said, there are no guards up. They're not paying attention to anything around them. They're completely complacent in their own survival at that moment.
It was very poetic, like 2/3 in, and when you get to that third, it's very graphic and violent and real.
Back up, Justin. Those chairs. They're
very familiar with those chairs.
Out of that chair easily.
I built a Adirondack chair once.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not as easy.
I had no idea what they were called. I just always called them the wooden recliners.
I have picked up more than my fair share of those damn chairs from Home Depot.
I've yet to see one under $142.
Like an actual solid wood one, yeah.
They're pricey.
Shit,
they're pricey.
Yeah.
So what you're
like
saying
160
is
to like
animals are rich.
400.
No, you can build them, and hell, I had we had an Adirondack chair that came, and it looked like it was made out of logs. They were like this big around, and they had like little tapered pieces that went into bored out holes, and that was the most comfortable chair in the world until it eventually fell apart because it was made out of natural wood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also wanted to point out something that Wolverine had asked. He said, did the writer not give clearance to have their names revealed? I didn't even ask. I wanted us to be able to talk very candidly about these pieces and really kind of get into it and dissect it without, of course, I'm frozen. That's
we can still hear you.
That I know, but that was a horrible free experience the first time I got to see it. Wow. Anyway, I wanted us to be able to talk without having worry that somebody was going to get their feelings hurt, or that it sounded like we were bashing any particular person, because that's not the case.
Somebody tuning a radio.
That's what it sounded like.
Don't worry about what I'm doing.
Well, then mute your motherfucking microphone, fool.
There
you go.
I muted him for you.
I clicked on something and I didn't expect it to be sound. My bad.
All right. Moving on to the next piece. Does anybody have a request for the next one that they'd like us to go over? No? Bueller?
Anybody? Bueller?
Okay. How about Black Medicine?
Is that which one is that?
GM.
Oh,
Ashcan
okay.
novella.
The
Novella.
Ashcan novella.
Luke, you want to read it?
Sure. Let me zoom in a little bit here. Black Medicine Ashcan novella. John's thoughts were both his savior and his fiend. His mind was the only thing remaining that he had control over. Any rational person would have gone to the hospital or to the police after they had their hand nearly bitten off. The poor young soul reflected upon the events that led him to his demise. It was all he could do in his current state after the infection took hold. It sucks to be an overthinker, though, as I decided to sprint home and tell no one. Reflecting back what happened that day, I would have done a lot of things differently about this damn infection if given a second chance. It was the end of the first day of his final year in high school where it all happened. John sprinted home in a dizzying panic the moment he escaped the bite of the deranged lunatic. His attempt to mask the blood with his hooded sweater was a futile effort in hiding the trail that led to the apartment rented out by his aunt and uncle. That was a hell of a mouthful, just saying. Reaching the bathroom, John placed his ruined arm under the faucet, desperately trying to sanitize the wound. Ugh, damn it! A high schooler swore as the water and soap stung his wound. After the frothy mixture washed off his hand and flowed down the pipes, he observed the damage. Infected already? Fuck! What the hell is wrong with that guy? When you overthink, you have doubts, like whether anyone would believe what happened to you. His thoughts delved further into sadness and regret. It's the only thing he can do to keep his mind at ease and to distract from the horrors that laid out before him. I still can't believe it happened to me. Couldn't tell my aunt or uncle as they were enjoying a romantic dinner at the time. I was relieved, not needing to explain anything. No, I should have been more open and honest. I guess I was too afraid of getting attached and possibly losing someone I care about, like what happened to Mom and Dad. I wish I could have done more. I wish I could have done more. I know you told me how hard it is to save for a house. To save for a house living in the Windy City, and the part-time at the pizza place only helped a little. Thank you for taking care of me. I hope you're safe. Please be safe. Sprawled out on his bed in an attempt to shake off the encounter, he rested his sore body with the TV on, half asleep as the programming switched to a news station. The bleeding quelled thanks to the gauze wrapped around his hand. Reflecting on the comfort of his room with his nerdy interests decorating the walls and the TV stand, he may never be able to enjoy the same hobbies of video games and comic books again, if they still exist after all that happened. Zombies, a work of fiction, now could be a reality. Oh. Zombies, a work of fiction, now could be a reality, the TV blared within the hour of John's rest. Slowly waking from his nap, he caught a glimpse of a rather gruesome scene. A man flumped against a bench, tattered and bloody, while another shot several times. The reporter on the scene listed off eerie warning signs that would have eventually befallen poor John. He had signs of decay over his face and hands, an unusually pale skin, bloodshot eyes, and blackened, visible veins around his arms and neck. John shot up, word for word, what he witnessed in the bathroom. In panic, he took to his computer chair, scouring the internet for clues, only pulling up some conspiracy theories and unhelpful rumors. How could I have known? How could any of us have known? Who would have honestly believed they were about to become a zombie? What could I have done? Maybe I should call Chase. John reached for the phone when the paranoia sank in. He found solace in his right-hand man, a charismatic student of his age that he could confide with, a young man that balanced John's introverted nature. His paranoia was justified as he reached for the phone. His arm twitched out of control, knocking over his device along with a few of his textbooks. Paper spilled every which way. John looked down in blistering shock. His blue eyes wide, tears of panic nearly formed after a long few seconds as his doomed fate was acknowledged. I am so powerless.
So Seriously, Luke needs to read somebody's graphic novel as,
Audiobook.
as an audiobook.
I love audiobooks. It's my favorite way to read.
Got a good voice, man.
Just as a reader, as a narrator, that was a little difficult to get through. Some of the sentence structure was a little clunky. Since I don't know who wrote this, it would be my question if the person who wrote it, if English was your second language, because that would make sense as far as some of the sentence structure and the word usage. Like not necessarily the words were wrong, but just kind of used in a, I don't know, at an angle instead of straight on, like I would expect them to be, if that makes sense. But overall, I get where the story is going. Like I said, the sentence structure is a little clunky to get the picture across clearly and efficiently.
Yeah,
a little bit flowery.
I can see that. There's a couple of run-ons in there. A couple of interesting word choices. I will say one word choice that I didn't think that I was gonna like, but the more I thought about it, really gets the point across. Flumped. One of the weirdest words I have ever heard, but a man flumped against a bench, tattered and bloody, and I was like, not quite right, but at the same time, I understand what that is. That isn't like that's someone just like total, like just giving up on all life and just it's not slumped. Slumped isn't active enough. It's not flung because he wasn't thrown. He's flumped. He's somewhere in between the two.
Well, it's a word with its own built-in sound effect. It's just,
exactly. It's an onomatopoeia. It's a very good one.
Yep. Totally.
There was some of this so there's a lot of when you see it in print, it's a little bit easier to digest because there's the italicized words when it's an internal monologue. But the funny thing is that some of them that are internal monologues you didn't italicize, but that still come across that same way, and others you did that seemed a little bit like bizarre choices to me. And this is one thing that I will say that I've noticed as an editor and somebody who's gone through and read a lot of people's works. The two biggest tips that I can give anybody is brevity and read your stuff out loud. Because if you go to read it out loud and you start stumbling, the likelihood that something in that sentence structure is off is very, very good. If you're reading a sentence and you realize that you haven't hit a period yet, but you have to take a breath or two or three, you need to break that down and get a lot briefer with it. And so that's one thing that I would suggest for this particular piece is that read it out loud. And when you start to hit some of those roadblocks, that's probably where you need to rework that sentence or that paragraph.
One of the things I've noticed from a lot of editors, basically their job is to shorten my sentences. And I think that this story could go from some, there's a lot of words that are used that fewer words could convey the point a little more clearly. Yeah. And writers have a tendency to do that. They tend to kind of embellish with their words because they can't, add cross hatching like a artist can, or, glows and flares like a colorist can. Their art is their words. And so they have a tendency to embellish and have turns of phrase and things like that. And so,
well, and I mean, honestly, like I think that a lot of writers, they tend to write, and the first time that you go through that first pass is just like diarrhea of the mouth. Whatever you need to get out to try and convey the point is what you do, right? But the thing that I think I've noticed with especially a lot of indie writers, is they forget the second, third, and fourth steps, which is you go back and read it, and then you refine it, and then you read it, and then you refine it again, and then you read it, you refine it again, and then you give it to somebody else and let them read it and let them tell you what you fucked up, because you know what you're trying to say. And you know the point that you're trying to get across, which means your accuracy in reading what is actually on the page every time you reread this and rewrite it, your accuracy goes down because you know what you're trying to say. And so your brain will just connect the dots, and eventually you don't read what's actually in front of you because you know where the story's supposed to go.
You're reading what's in your head, not actually
Exactly. Which is why you need and this is why I tell people always, if you can, always get an editor, and get an editor that isn't as familiar with the story as you are. Get an editor that doesn't know what the hell your story is, and you're going to say, here, read this cold and tell me what sucks. Like, because if they read it and they go, I don't know what the fuck you wrote about, you go, well, shit, there's an entire script that sucks. Other thoughts?
What are they writing for? Because I took a college course where they say you write a sentence, and it's like, okay, they say erase the period, expand the sentence. If you're writing a novel, if you're writing a graphic novel or a comic book, you have to go brevity. That's what I do. But I don't know. It kind of depends, I think, on what you're writing, I guess. Like,
well, so when it comes to expanding for a novel, though, you should never be expanding just for expansion's sake. If you're not adding any.
Oh no, I understand that. Like,
yeah,
I mean, to make it not pop, but you know what I mean. Like, if you write a simple sentence,
to make it descriptive.
Sure, yeah, to make it descriptive, or add a little something to it to describe the situation, area, a person. But yeah, for comics, you want to chop it for sure. I mean, that goes without saying.
Because there's so much less that you have to describe because you have stuff that's going to be seen. I also will say I hate reading books where they're like, and there she stood in her jade sweater, her long auburn hair flowing in the wind. I'm like, okay, I'm going to be honest. I don't really give a fuck what color her clothes are. Like, unless it is relevant to the story that we're saying, like, I don't know how much it really matters to me. And I'm going to replace it with whatever the fuck I want it to look like anyway. So
I don't know if I'm wrong or right, but I kind of noticed the third person part of it was kind of chunky, I guess. And then the first person was very, you know what I mean? Short and to the point. When you're speaking in first person, describing what's happening to him. I noticed that. But
yeah. I can see what you're saying. In all honesty, in all of this, there is 1, 2, 3, 4 times that this character said anything out loud.
Yeah.
And one of those times is a broken sentence with a bunch of descriptor in the middle.
But it was very short, you know. I thought it was interesting that
they were all like under 10 words.
You know, I wonder if the author did that to kind of convey the whole panic, you know, because you know how your thoughts kind of get like short and flighty when you're in panic mode. Because I could see that adds to the kind of the tension of the story, but
his thoughts felt long. His verbalization felt short, but his thoughts felt very long.
Oh yeah,
and
all right, fair enough. Yeah,
but I mean, I would get that too if you're anxious. Like when you get anxiety, you tend to get circular thoughts.
Right. Maybe just talk to himself in little chunks. I mean, it's overall, I don't think it's a bad story. I think it's a good start. It just needs to be pared back a little bit and streamlined.
Yeah, I would say it's a good first or second draft. It definitely needs at least a final polish, if not a little bit more. What about you, Will? Why are you so quiet tonight? What's up?
Because I'm listening to you people.
Oh gosh.
You people?
You people. And I mean that with the amount of derision as I could possibly conjure up.
It's okay. I'm not offended.
You and your derision.
Because you know, people say you people, and people go, "Oh, I don't mean you." No, I mean you people. When I say it. No, but Shae is correct. That technique is invaluable. I come from academic training, and when you're writing for professors or their student aides, usually your page count is at a premium, and your word count is at a premium. So everything has to count. Everything has to count.
Totally.
Because they don't want to read past literally one line past 5 pages or 6 pages or 7 pages. So vocalizing out loud and reading to yourself, and I like to call them mental gear stops, where you'll be reading, it'll be flowing, and then there'll be a funky word or sentence where it just grinds, and you can't even speak past it, and that's where you got to go in and start snipping, pulling out, and addressing it up or removing it completely, and then you get a flow, right? You get a nice, beautiful flow into the idea, because if you're writing, say, for example, an explanation of philosophy, and they stop dead at a sentence, they'll forget everything they just read, and they'll be like, "What the fuck is that?" Right?
Absolutely.
It just takes them out of the experience of reading, and just gets them into the mechanics of what you're doing. So that reading out loud is the most important thing you could possibly do. For one, two, I think we're missing something kind of more elementary about it, which is when you've got a guy who's sub-vocalizing what he's feeling. You're missing an opportunity to use his cadence to talk, right? You don't have to be Edgar Allan Poe and write this flowery language. You can write in his language, and that can help you shorten the thing down, right? So he said this is like this is like a high schooler, right? Well, does he go to a prep school because he sounds like a prepper, like because he's like my right hand man was calling. It's like no, like he could say, he could
my homie.
If you know who this kid is,
right,
and you're speaking, and it's written from his perspective, you can write short sentences that are to the point and sound like a 17-year-old is writing them. Not in terms of how badly it's written, but to get across that this is the guy who you're talking through, right? And so,
character.
An example of that, who I learned that from, is a guy named Donald Westlake. He used to go under the name Richard Stark, and he wrote a series of books about a character named Parker. They've made many movies about him. One was the Payback with Mel Gibson, with Robert Duvall. The latest one with Jason Statham called Parker, which is about a career criminal. And he's a very flowery writer. But when he wrote these books, he decided in the beginning to convey the kind of utilitarian nature of these professional thieves. I'm going to strip down the language and make it like almost like badly written.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to kind of just read a sample of it just to give you an idea of what I mean and how you can kind of talk through a character to get brevity through. In this passage, Parker is coming back into the world after just being shot, like in the film Payback with Mel Gibson. He got betrayed. He's been out of action for a while. He's now coming back into the city to get what's coming to him. Mm-hmm. And he's walking across the New York Bridge. So when a fresh-faced guy in a Chevy offered him a lift, Parker told him to go to hell. The guy said, "Screw you, buddy," yanked his Chevy back in the stream of traffic and roared on down the toll booths. Parker spat in the right-hand lane, lit his cigarette, and walked across the George Washington Bridge. So right there, it's not like it's staccato almost, right?
Yeah. Totally.
So, for example, here, just a couple more lines because this is very good. Office women in passing cars looked at him and felt vibrations above their nylons. He was big and shaggy, with flat, square shoulders and arms too long and sleeves too short. He wore a gray suit, limp with age and no pressing. His shoes and socks were both black and both holy. The shoes were holy on the bottom. His socks were holy at heel and toe. His hands, swinging curved fingers at his sides, looked like they were molded of brown clay by a sculptor who thought big and liked veins. So right there, I mean, he didn't describe what he looks like, but thought big and liked veins.
Yeah.
You know, like he didn't have to describe he's tall and he's Italian or whatever. He's okay. You get it. This is a big built dude who turns women on when they look at him. How many sentences was that?
Well, and so like thinking of it in the terms of what you just read, well, this feels almost like, so I wish I could remember what it was, some really shit movie from like 8 years ago or something like that I had watched. No, not like
I'm just showing that everybody, if they want to check it out, these great editions have these beautiful covers.
That reminds me a bit of Elmore Leonard, actually.
He's kind of in that style, and they're all printed, all 20 books are printed like this, and as you can see, they're quick reads.
Yeah. Okay.
You know, Excellent.
Okay, cool.
The thing I was gonna say is there's when you watch like a lot of the really bad rom-coms that are kind of tongue-in-cheek and stuff, and there's always that overarching narrator person, and it always sounds like some stuffy British dude who is just so full of himself and pompous. That's kind of what the narrator in this piece sounds like, but it doesn't.
I was gonna say to write like a 7-year-old or get the idea of it. A character comes to mind was Holden Caulfield from Catcher in the Rye. You get the attitude of like a teenage kid. You get his attitude, like it sounds like a kid, from his perspective. These people,
Maybe
these
depressed as
adults.
hell.
Right.
You get it right away. Like this isn't an adult talking.
Right, that was the problem. Like it was disjointed.
Yeah, I will say once he said in there the teenager, I was like, wait, really? Like this, I thought this was like some like 25-year-old dude who is like in college and just so worldly now because like the really douchebaggy ones that like can never pick a major, so they just keep skipping and they're like forever in college. Like that's the guy that I was getting that thinks that he's super
professional
smart.
frat boy.
Yeah, and then he's like,
That's
the
fun,
teenager or the high schooler, and I was like, holy shit, that's not what I thought at all. No, I think that Will's right. I think that the narrator voice and the actual character doesn't match well enough.
Mm-hmm.
And so it subverts expectations in a bad way.
Also,
Like-
Shae, there's a problem with ego as well. That's how I wrote when I was 12 or 13. I'm not like saying that in terms of intelligence. I'm saying that when you're a new writer, you want to impress yourself.
Right.
And you want to make sure that your skills are always brought to bear so anyone reading knows that you're a good writer.
Right.
And if you do what Donald Westlake does here, you're afraid that someone reads this and says, you can't write like Edgar Allan Poe, right? Because you read this.
Right.
And you have to be a real pro to go, no, I wrote for this, for that audience. I can do any kind of writing if I have to. Right. And I think that's what he was doing there was he was really putting his writing on display, which is fine, but he was pushing away that instinct to talk like the character.
Right. Yeah, I would totally agree. And I mean, like we've all been saying, it's not a bad base. It's a good base. It just needs some tweaking. It needs some love and finesse. And I think it needs some identity. It needs
That's the perfect word, identity.
Yeah. Like
A,
you need to know what you
consistent
want it to
voice.
be.
So if you're writing, if your character is a 17-year-old, then the prose should reflect a 17-year-old. Again, not in terms of mental development, but in the words you use, the size of your sentences, what he's describing and how he's describing it. Because it doesn't necessarily have to be in the first person to write it like a 17-year-old. It can be in the third person and reflect the 17-year-oldness in, like I said, the length of the sentences, the types of words you're using, the kind of visualizations. Like if he'd said, man, me and my homies were walking down the street and this methed out looking weirdo white trash dude walked up on us. We were laughing at first, but then all of a sudden he fucking bit me.
Yeah, right.
And we were like, what the fuck? But then it started to hurt and he took a chunk out of me.
Yeah.
It's all a matter of finding
if
the
you're
character's voice.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if you're going to panic, you're going to talk in a panic state, like really go on a bit. You're going to be worried. You're going to be panicked. It has to convey on the page. I think.
Well,
which is why the story would work in a comic because it could just be bursts of little boxes.
Right. Well, and I think what you just said, Frankie, is really important because everything that you're seeing here, I feel like he's being super introspective for somebody who's dying.
Yeah.
Like he's a very introspective individual. If I was dying, I wouldn't be like, what could I have done to her? I'd be like, how the fuck do I stop it? Like, make it stop.
I'm dying, but you know what? I'm not gonna ruin my my uncle and aunt's romantic evening.
Yeah. Then I'd be like, did that motherfucker have AIDS? He could have had anything. What the fuck was that?
I'm 40 years old and I wouldn't have been that level-headed. Like this dude just bit me and I'm turning into a freaking zombie. I'm about to go find somebody. It's like, come on, like.
You would get to that point as you're just about to turn when you're starting to turn into one.
Right.
Then it's like that happens later, not right away, not in the beginning, not in that moment.
Yeah.
And he left out all
World War
descriptions
Z.
of his physical state, like how he feels.
Right. Oh, he would have had an opportunity to talk about that. You know, that sick sweat feeling that you get when you're just deathly ill, like a really bad fever, and everything feels like overly moist. Like he had so many opportunities to just really kind of make you go like, oh, this isn't good. This is bad. Like,
yeah, and it tells
this
the
isn't
audience
just a bite.
It tells the audience that something's going on with him, right? You know, like he's talking in his little monologue, but then he's like, suddenly I feel really, he felt really hot, and he had to remove his shirt, and it's drenched in sweat, and he never even noticed it through his panic, right?
Yeah.
At looking at his hand, something like that.
On the good, I do like the first person perspective of it, like his idea of going there, like having a person go through it. That I mean, it's a good idea, and they could definitely expand on that for sure.
Absolutely.
Right, and this is what this whole discussion's been about: is that because he chose that. Now you've got to go with all the stuff that goes with it, which is the voice of the character, how he's feeling.
Yeah.
Everything's got to come inside out.
Right. No, I'm just picking the good of it. The idea of that's a pretty good idea. I mean,
yeah, it is good because it gives you the opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
Well, and I do like how he's got that bit at the end where he says like, "I'm so powerless." Like, again, I think it needs to be in the voice of a 17-year-old. But that kind of ending
I was
thought
thinking
of
that.
like I can't do anything.
Like
I am fucked. Like
exactly.
that's a good kind of damn. What would you do if that was you?
As abrasive as it is, it works for a teenager.
Yeah. It really would. And like I get if you don't want cursing and things like that in your ash can or whatever. I totally understand that. But if somebody said at the end of this, if you had the thing that said, "I'm totally fucked," you'd just be like, "Damn, yeah, you kind of are, man." Like, like I'm so powerless. Almost sounds like the person has given up, as opposed to there isn't anything they can do. Like they have two different levels of intensity. You know what I'm saying?
I think you could have taken that last sentence out.
Yeah. Oh, you absolutely could.
Just that last one, where he ended it right before, been fine.
Yeah. John looked down in a blistering
Yeah.
shock.
See,
Yeah.
I would also kind of add, again, just the whole teenage thing when he sees the TV blade of zombies, a work of fiction now could be a reality. Like, oh shit,
And then right there, you could be saying
I don't know what the fuck is happening with
Something's happening
right there. You could say his heartbeat started to rise a little bit. A sweat broke out. I don't want to believe in fiction, but this shit's starting to scare me. You know what I mean? It's a bit too coincidental.
Well, and you could even have the stuff where it's like, but it can't be real. That's only in books, or like
no,
that's like
I didn't see that on me. That's not happening to me. No.
Yeah, like it's something that is conveying the panic. Like I said, he's very stoic. He's really introspective.
Well, it's almost like if Edgar Allan Poe became a zombie and he was all like emo. It's like, oh, as I rot away.
He found solace in his right-hand man, a charismatic student of his age he could confide with, a young man that balanced John's introverted nature.
I mean, that right there, a charismatic student of his age?
Yeah.
Is this William F. Buckley talking? What are we doing?
I've never in my life referred to somebody as a charismatic individual of my age. At no point in time has that been how I've referred to anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, who's reading old prose? Because that is old prose turn of phrase.
I'd say,
seriously.
Maybe I should call Chase a genuine Bushman of our age.
I do like the spirit of it. I definitely think that it just needs some finesse. I think that it's good.
It needs to decide if it wants to tell a serious story, if it wants to tell a flowery story.
Yeah.
Because the combination isn't working.
Also, I said don't overthink it. As you're writing it, put yourself in the kid's shoes. Holy shit. Go try to tap into that. Get that feeling out and then put it down on paper. And you got gold.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
stream of consciousness, dude. Like do like a stream of like even record yourself, like what you say. Like if you're thinking about it, record what you would do, how you would freak out.
If I saw that shit on the television set, what am I do? I'm gonna kick my TV. I'm gonna kick it off, shut it off, whatever. I'm like, I ain't watching this shit. It's freaking me out. I don't want to see that. That's what's gonna happen to me.
Yeah.
No, that ain't happening. Maybe I can stop this shit. Let me put some medicine on this crap. See what's going on.
Why am I sweating? Room spitting? Holy shit! What's going on with me? You know, just like feel the panic induce and just spiral down.
How did they cure it in the movies? Oh, they chopped off the hand. I ain't chopping off my hand. That's crazy.
Oh, fuck that shit. I need this hand.
Am I turning already? I just coughed. What the hell was that? Like, you can really have fun with it.
You could, yeah, for real.
Yeah. And it really does need to go more into how the kid is feeling, you know, because that's what you're going to do. Let's think about it. Let's take away the physical bite and let's just like go with a lot of people right now are dealing with like emotional stuff, right? And the first thing they do is they talk about how they feel emotionally. That's what we're focused on. He would be focused on how he's feeling physically, and then also how that's making him feel mentally, emotionally. You know, the panic that's going on there. And it would, I don't think he'd be so stoic or so. I mean, I don't know any 17-year-old that's that
so detached.
Potheads.
Yeah.
I don't even think pothead. Like, even a pothead, I think would still.
They've seen all those movies. A pothead, so they're gonna go through all those scenarios.
Man, that dude bit me.
Oh man, this sucks. I'm gonna be a freaking zombie.
This could slow it down.
I want him to be like, this bites.
Is urgent care open? I don't know.
See what I did there? That's funny.
Man, I don't want brains. I definitely want some Cheetos right now.
See, and that's a perfect example of like having a scenario, and then you can go serious with it, and you can go humor with it.
See, we went pothead, and we all just took it to a fucked up, funny place.
Even if it was a prepster, it wasn't enough. You know, I agree with Luke that you should go more into the first person dialogue or monologue.
Yeah,
for sure.
All right.
Or you can put William F. Buckley to sleep now.
Huh?
I just call him William F. Buckley. I don't know why that keeps popping into my head. That it's William F. Buckley talking. Like, you know, on firing line we have Thomas Sowell here, and, Howard Zinn. You know, like,
I say, good chap.
You know, I could confide in him. My right-hand man, Chase. Or Chase. I can't do the, what's his name, Mr. Howell? I can't do the Mr. Howell voice.
Mr. Howell.
Does anyone know who Mr. Howell is? Or am I
yes, Mr. Howell.
Isn't that
my
the same?
right-hand man? He was
charismatic
though for his age.
Yes,
Gilligan, can you redo the banana leaves on my roof?
He's also Mr. Magoo.
Is he?
Yeah. Look it up on YouTube. Get the voice. It's Mr. Magoo.
I was gonna say,
learn new things all the time. Spend more vocabulary learning. He's Mr. Magoo.
Who were like the Beatles who got washed off on the island? What were they called? The rock band. It was like
the Monkees.
Was it the Monkees?
No.
Hey, with the Monkees. People say we
the
monkey
Monkees
around.
were a major influence on the Beatles.
Major.
So, I don't know. They like show off and they take off. They leave them behind again.
Yes.
I'm singing that. Copyright infringement. He's gonna get a strike.
I mean, we've made it an hour and 4 minutes. You know.
No, honestly,
right
like
off the rails.
There's so many people. Like I heard if you hum a Prince song, you will get struck.
Probably, yeah. So
like it's that that dude will get you, or from the beyond.
From the purple rain.
Yeah, we don't know where he is, but he's watching. He's omniscient. So he's there from Paisley Park in the sky, watching us all.
The Monkees are better than the Beatles. I agree.
Yeah, I don't.
Now, Chase, can we put Chase to sleep? But not Chase, but Chase's friend.
What?
He doesn't give himself a name, does he?
No.
Yeah, we just know Chase. No, John. So we could put John to sleep, and hopefully he can get cradled by Chase until he gets up again and walks around and maybe bites Chase. And then we'll do a story about Chase talking about shit. My best friend bit me. I thought he was giving me a hickey, but instead he was just biting the shit out of me.
It's okay with the
Another
hickey.
twist.
He
Another
bit me
twist.
and I
I like
wasn't
that.
into it.
Well, do you sit around with your guy friends and give each other hickeys?
No, I give myself a hickey
not
with a
done
vacuum cleaner to impress my guy friends.
Oh, you just gave up our secret.
Confession time.
And I said, "Well, check it out. Check out what you did. You like that? You know, when we were."
I'm gonna die.
Who gave you that hickey? Hoover.
Yeah, her last name is
Dress.
Hoover.
Talking about I
Black and Decker.
know.
You like to call her Bissy or Bissell?
Bissell. That's it. Bissell.
You know,
Wow.
fun size Bissell.
I would have thought you guys would have been like Dyson. At least that sounds like a dude.
Well, but you know, this is the
Dyson is for the rainbow people.
exactly.
What? You see
And
the
you
commercials?
and the tube wouldn't be up here.
It's too fancy for us. Dyson's too fancy. It'll rip a hole out of my neck.
I mean, God, hickeys are so like 8th grade. Hickeys are like 8th grade, aren't they?
Next
Pretty
up
much.
on 1,000 Ways to Die.
And you got to put the spoon in the freezer, and then push it away so your mom doesn't see it.
The super invisible hickeys, like she's on your neck, is 1,000% junior high. I think it's the non-visible hickeys that are what end up happening when you get older.
Okay, yeah.
Anyway, all right. So I think that we should do another poem. What do you guys think?
Sure. Goodbye,
Yeah.
Chase. Goodbye, John.
Goodbye, Chase and
May
John.
demons rock you to sleep.
Wow.
Do we have anyone who wants to read A History of Woe?
That's actually my favorite one. I actually like that one a lot.
You want to read it, Will?
Sure. Is everybody calm and ready?
Sure.
I'm completely zen, so yeah.
Okay. In divine solemnity was her spirit adorned, cloaked in yoke of an old formulation, of sublime infinity the woman was born, imperceptible, nondescript, raw creation, shorn and bereft, guiltless convicted, blossomed breath, earthly conceived, bestowed upon her, duty implicit, roughly wreathed, and virtue bereaved. Honor is undone for flesh and marrow, faultlessly sheathed in primal utility, a phosphorescent plea embittered harrow, her prophet is impartial anonymity. Delicate, incomplete, and asunder, quietly concealed an ancient price, being bestowed in carnal plunder, congealed in blood there is life. Talent tore and worn of regress, faded as a state of putrescence, corporeal form without redress, mated to nature, acquiescence. Steady in time, a path inclined, plays gaily, unchaste, unbound, manifest fiat, ideas defined, belay dawn, unsought, unfound. In act and speech she is free, truth is a liar, right is wrong, sowing seeds and want liberty, her spirit afire, man is gone. A history of woe.
I very much like the cadence as well. I think that that's something that's big for a lot of poetry is making sure.
Absolutely.
You get the meter right?
Yeah. Because there's even like greats, like people that are in history as being like the poets, especially for American literature, and every now and then you get a poem and you're like, ooh, that meter. Like that one line fucked the whole poem. Emily Dickinson is
So let's not
horrible.
pick on Walt Whitman, okay?
Ooh, just calling him out. Damn.
Fired, shots fired.
Barbaric y'all.
Yeah, there's been a few times when I'm like reading through some Walt and I'm like, oh, okay, that caused me to trip.
Wow, that was
Stumble a little bit.
Good job, buddy.
It's so bad too when you're like really into it, you're really feeling the meter, and you start reading it aloud, and then you hit that point, you're like, and you're like, hold on,
Like a
hold on.
speed bump.
I'll get it back for the next 5 lines. It'll be fine.
I'm a huge Walt Whitman fan too, and I'm like, but yeah, I know it's in there.
Almost every time I've read Emily Dickinson, she I swear she intentionally fucks up her meter. And I don't know if it was like her being psychotic or, you know, I don't know what it was, but like it would be like going good. Oh, fucky. Okay, good again. And you're just like, what happened? Like, what was the fucky part? What was that?
It's almost like she knows someone's going to be reading it and like, wait for this part. It's going to be down.
It's like a Bob Ross painting. It's a beautiful piece. At the end, he puts a big tree in the middle of it.
It's a Bob Ross painting where somebody didn't know how to just have a happy accident, and they were like, "That's a fucked up mistake." Is what that is.
No, that's called a screw you tree. Is what that's called. It's like, oh, you really like that? Well, here's a big freaking tree. Live with that now.
Up the back.
Did you think it was pretty before we just screwed it? Jason says poetry confuses me. I'm not that smart. Here's what I got from that poem. There's a broad in it.
Wolverine trying to be reductive or anything.
Sounds like a feminist.
Well, it does kind of sound like a feminist to me, writing this. It really does, especially in those last lines. In act and speech, she is free. Truth is a liar. Right is wrong. Sowing seeds and want of liberty. That in particular.
Man is gone.
Man is gone. Yeah, but that right there, sowing seeds and want of liberty. That right there tips me off to somebody who's a little bit, stuck in their passions and wants to upturn things, because liberty is always a euphemism for upturning the moral law. It's always a euphemism for that.
I almost wonder if the fact that the entire poem is called A History of Woe isn't basically like, yeah, it might be talking about kind of crazy feminist ideals, and that is what is so sad, is the history trying to repeat itself, and every time it's a little bit worse because they're not learning from it.
Well, this is 100 years of women's suffrage, right?
Is it?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. My daughter gets to vote this year, so she's like really all about that right now, which is really cool that she's getting into the whole idea about voting because it's women's suffrage. So maybe the writer has something. Maybe that's what they're thinking about.
Well, I think you guys are onto something, by the way, like, especially in the first lines. Of sublime infinity, the woman was born, imperceptible, nondescript, raw creation, but on the top, cloaked in the yoke of old formation. Mm-hmm. Yoke of old formation.
Yeah, like the center of...
Because there's one thing that feminists really don't like, is the idea of essences and final causes, right? They don't like the idea that we are made for something or things have a purpose, because that means they have a purpose, right? And if there's one thing modern women are at war with, is their purpose, right? Which is why they want to kill it all the time. Because if you use enough technology, maybe you can rewrite your purpose. Well, no, you're just... It's damn hard to get in the way of your purpose, because things just seem to want to happen when you have sex with somebody. I mean, it's that powerful of a purpose where you have to use a lot of technology to get in the way of it. You know what I mean? And that yoke line really sets it off, that this, I think, is written for or about a woman, or of a woman. Because I haven't seen a group of people who are more angry at the fact that they have a purpose, or the idea of purpose, than feminists.
That could be. I mean, the way that it kind of reads to me almost is in the beginning. So it says imperceptible, nondescript, raw creation, right? That's like at the most basic and pure form of what it would mean to be a woman. But as it continues on, it starts like chipping away at that purity and starts corruption and starts kind of veering from that path until it gets down to the bottom, where it's like, man is gone, and then it says A History of Woe, and it's kind of, to me it almost reads like this is where women have started, and this is what all of the things that women could become. But if you just allow bitterness and anger and resentment and all of those negative feelings to just kind of dominate you, it drags you down and drags you down and drags you down. And that's what we have a tendency to do over and over and over again.
The line Honor is undone for flesh and marrow, faultlessly sheathed in primal utility. Like primal utility. That right there. You know, the whole purpose thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's what happens when you remove
embittered horror, kind of also, you know, what you're talking about. If you let the bitterness take you, you know, it's just a downward spiral.
Well, here's the thing, though. When we're talking about purposes, say, for example, for women, honor is undone for flesh and marrow, like you just said, but for flesh and marrow, meaning that when you remove the honor part, which is the purpose part, all you're left is flesh and marrow, which is utility. Faultlessly sheathed in primal utility.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's not her fault that she's now a utility, which is an apparatus of pleasure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not a person that you sleep with to have a child in a marriage, you know? It's now just utility. I need to get off. You're there. You make me feel good. Let me stick it in you.
That's not poetic.
Well,
when you phrase it the way she did, it becomes poetic.
Yes.
I was gonna say, I think that the at least the way that went for me, honor isn't done for flesh and marrow. So remove the honor, and all you have left is basically a corpse.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
because when you remove that, you know, women become nothing.
Right.
Really.
What women have, and this is it might be a little bit of an old school ideal, and this may not be at all what the author was going for, but one of the things that women have that really kind of hold sacred is our honor, right? That's why women have men fight for their honor when somebody is trying to spread mistruths. That's why wars have been fought and brothers have killed each other, have been over the honor of a woman. And that's something that no matter the age, no matter the year, there's nothing worse to a lot of us women. Like every girl I know has the same reaction the second somebody starts spreading misinformation, especially about somebody's chastity or fidelity. Because that's a tarnish on your honor. This is something that I hold very sacred, and you're over here saying that I don't hold it sacred and I just throw it out there for anybody, and that's not okay. And now I'm pissed off and I'm gonna fucking murk you somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're saying you take away the honor and all that's left. That's why it matters to women. Once you take away a woman's honor, I'm just a body. It's just a shell, because that's what is in your soul. That's what helps define you as a female. And men have it too, but it's a different taste. It's a different type, because for you guys, your honor is more your word. But for women, honor just permeates everything.
Well, women value safety, men value respect.
Yes.
And the two complement each other, because in order to safeguard women, whether it be through chivalry or war, it's usually respect between men and a respect for violence between men.
Mm-hmm.
That you will not damage our honor nor our women's honor, because you're going to get a threat of violence.
Yeah,
exactly. So they complement each other. That's why women are always like, "Don't fight! Don't you want to be safe?" And men are like, "Fuck that! That's not a line."
You're throwing hands. Fuck it.
Because if it wasn't for the women, we're just like, "Hey, Luke, fuck it, let's kill each other." And like, you know, Shae would walk in and go, "No, I need Luke to take out the trash." Well, we'll fight tomorrow.
We'll fight after Luke takes out the trash. Damn it!
Well, not tomorrow either. He's building a fence in case the sheep. Well, fuck it, we'll fight the day after. No, you're not, because
he's hunting a deer.
Yeah, you're hunting a deer and then repairing the roof. Well, shit, when can we kill each other? Never.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's so lame.
So here's an interesting thing that Wolverine pointed out. A huge question to how the poem is interpreted is the author male or female? Right. Do you guys agree?
No, because to tell you the truth, I don't see why this can't be written by a man talking about women. I mean, we have eyes and we have ears,
mm-hmm.
you know, and just because you're not a woman doesn't mean you don't understand the teleological purpose of women, right?
Right.
And seeing what's making them happy and unhappy. And understanding as a man that you feel, you know, you activate a woman in a certain way as she activates you.
Okay, so here's a question. If you had to guess, all of you guys, if you had to guess, what is your vote? Is that a male or female author?
Shae wrote this.
Female author.
So Luke says female. Justin?
Female.
Female.
Men don't talk that pretty.
Frankie?
Shae wrote this. No, I'm kidding.
Luke?
I would go with female, and I would also add, like, just from the casual observer, almost someone angry about being the bearer of life, possibly because of being raped or something like that. Just the, carnal plunder, something delicate, incomplete, and asunder, quietly concealed in ancient price. I don't know. There seems to be a bit of anger there and resentment. That's what I'm picking up anyway.
Will?
As snarky as I want to be, because I almost want to say it's a man, because if it was a woman, it'd be 9 pages long. But I want to say a woman because I know this woman in town, this stripper chick that I know, who literally writes this on a nightly basis on her Instagram because she can't figure out why she's miserable after 9 years of stripping. Like, I'll go to her Instagram, it's this nightly, and I'm like, I almost said her name, but I wonder why that is. Like, could it be that you're 29 and still doing this? But
Coins her.
And so the only reason why I say that it's by a woman because it sounds like her writing this.
Interesting.
Do you think poetry is up to individual interpretation, or you have, like, a highly educated person would get it right off the bat, and then someone less educated might get something else from the poem? Like, I think it's about this. I don't think it's about that. Like a painting, like almost individual interpretation, or no?
Sure. So my personal feelings on it, as somebody who writes a good amount of poetry, all of my poems mean something for me. But I've had a lot of people read them and come away with things that I never even considered, and something that I never would have thought to write or put into it. And so I think that a lot of it has to depend on your experiences and how you're going to take something like this poem, for instance. I'm taking it from a perspective of, it sounds like initially it's talking about a woman in a very, like, adoring light, and then almost like gets sad at how much that ends up tarnished. But a lot of that could very easily be the fact that I think that women have the ability to be incredibly strong and powerful, and yet I think that we constantly victimize ourselves and therefore hold ourselves back from what is anything that we could actually do. And that makes me very depressed, especially looking at modern day feminism and how a lot of young women now are wanting to take back things like the term slut or bitch. Why? Like, they're words that are meant to hurt, and B, they're dumb words. They're just dumb words. If somebody's going to call you a slut, that instantly is going to tell you something about their maturity levels and about their motivation. There's no need to take it back. Just stop letting it hurt you.
Well, and slut is also primal utility.
I would say not just poems, but any writing, depending on who's reading it, and their perspective of, like, how they're feeling that day. Everyone's going to see something different than the writer themselves thought of. Like, not to give us, but like, Will way overly analyzed one of my scenes that I was like, I mean, if you see that, that's cool.
Is that the one I had a problem with? That one?
Yes.
With the mom?
Yes.
Well, sorry. I was like, that's
I mean, but it was cool though, because it gave me a different perspective as, like, the writer. Like, okay, that's, people will see different things, like, no matter what.
So a lot of people don't know this, but I actually used to be a musician that sang and did a lot of stuff, and not just write comic books and draw comic books, but I had one particular song that I wrote that was just simply kind of an anthem. It's called Good Morning. Just kind of this kind of anthem about, kind of approaching the morning, the day with the positive outlook.
Oh my
And we
god!
had
Did you do that? Good morning. Good morning.
that was not us. No, that was not me. But this song had nothing to do with what one of the fans who bought the album was kind of all about it. He had a son that had passed away, and that song really connected with him, with his son, and he felt like it was about, all the words really reflected this relationship he had with his son. And so it was like his son was telling him good morning and everything was okay. So he would listen to this song every day. So really interpretation, I don't think has anything to do with, obviously if you're really educated, you're going to try to dig into things a lot more and you're going to be thinking ethereal, but I think interpretation it's education, but it's also experience. It's kind of the heart place in the headspace that you're in. So I think that all plays into interpretation, whether you're reading a comic, whether you're reading a poem, whether you're listening to a song, all of those things.
Yeah, you brought up music. That reminded me of Sting. That song he wrote, Every Breath You Take.
Yes.
He said in an interview, he goes, I can't believe people play it at weddings. They go, why? He goes, because it's about a stalker.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
It's very stalkery, yeah.
It totally makes sense, though.
He said it's about a stalker. He goes, people playing it at their weddings. I'm like, why? I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, it's very stalkery.
I think a perfect example, I have a poem that I wrote that was basically all about December. Like, I wrote it one day when I walked into work because I was walking outside and the air was that like perfect kind of cool crisp where you breathe in and it burns your lungs, but it like in like the best possible way, and you can feel the coldness on your cheeks. And when I first when I very first wrote it, the idea was it was almost like a love letter to winter, because I much prefer being cold over being hot. And so like fall and winter, those are my favorite times of year. So I wrote this poem, and it was sweet and loving, and it was talking about how wonderful the cold was. And then when I opened the door to walk into my office and I got hit with that disgusting, overly humid, like fake warmth from inside, and I was like, oh, this is gross. And I was like genuinely bummed because I had to leave this like kind of intoxicating cold to go into this like stuffy hot that I didn't want to do. So when I first wrote it, that's how I wrote it. Well, when I decided that I wanted my anthology to be dark and to be more dismal, I reevaluated what that poem meant, and I was able to make it an entirely different meaning, despite the fact that that isn't how I wrote it. And I didn't have to change a single word. I simply had to alter the perspective of it. And I loved that happened when I read it, that I turned around and said, you know what, I'm putting this poem in my anthology twice. And the first time I'm going to surround it with pictures that'll give it one very kind of uplifting perspective. And then the next time you see it, it's going to be the warped perspective that I gave it. And it's all a matter of what you go into it with. So that was kind of something that I wanted to point out. Like how you said, it means something different. I think a lot of poems mean something different depending on your own experiences and your education level and everything like that. But also, like, what do you want to get out of it? Because I've changed the meanings of my poems on what they mean to me based on what I wanted to get out of them at the times that I read them.
Yeah, but I think there's a limit to that. I think if we're still bound by the language we've all agreed upon, meaning what it means, because every word means three things.
Yeah. Because
of the history of words, right? A word never starts concrete, right? Every word describes something, describes two things, a seen and an unseen. And somewhere along the history of the word, it breaks off into two different things. So if like you said, the education level, if you know all the meanings of those words, you're going to be able to decipher something about what the poet is saying, right? It could be that the poet just doesn't know what the fuck he's doing. That's one, right? He could be lying to you, or he just threw a word out there because it sounds good to fill the meter. But if we're agreeing on the words, there's only so many interpretations, right? And the reason why I'm saying that is because poets are the ones who move language. throughout
Yeah.
history, because we didn't start with writing. Very few cultures, actually none, start with writing. It starts with spoken language passed down, memorization in song, in poetry, in a meter, so it's easy to memorize and pass down. And the way that works is that poets will collectively seize on a word, and that word will take on a manifold meaning because it's being used in poetry. So poetry becomes a sort of evolutionary primordial soup that meanings derive themselves from, which is why every word has 3 or 4 meanings.
Right.
Right? Because along its line, it's going to separate from the concrete and become something else. It's going to become its own word into the abstract. So the reason I'm saying that, like I said, Shae, is that you only have 3 or 4 options.
Right, exactly. And so, I mean, that, like, I can't take the poem that I wrote about the cold in December, and if I want it to suddenly mean that I'm like hanging out on a beach in the Poconos or something like that, it's not going to work.
Like you said, my breath escapes me and I went down to sleep. Well, your breath could literally escape you. You got the wind knocked out of you, or your spirit escaped you and you died.
Yeah.
Right? Because sleep is also a synonym for death, and breath is a synonym for soul.
Yep.
You know what I mean? One of the meanings, spiritus, it could be breath or spirit. That's what I mean. It depends on, that's kind of what you said. And I think Wolverine said it too. If you want to take it literally, you can.
Yeah.
But you're not going to get much out of it. Oh, what? She just got punched in the chest and fell down and went to sleep? All right. Great poem, buddy.
Right.
Or that's, something else happened where the soul left and they went down into an eternal sleep. And while I'm saying this, I want to kind of recommend something to the panel and to everyone here that I think would help with you guys a lot. This is actually a book I think everyone should read who likes writing, period. I don't care if you're a poet or a prose writer. This will help you understand language in a much more profound way. By Owen Barfield. He was one of the Inklings. He wrote with C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. He was in that bar talking about Lord of the Rings. He was one of those guys in that group. And Owen Barfield is the one who came up with language as the means of which our intelligence evolved. And that was kind of his theory. And another one of his would be this one, Saving the Appearances, which is sort of a history of consciousness. So these 2 books I highly recommend to everybody if you just want to understand history of consciousness or the history of language. Especially this one. Poets should all read this. Shae, you should read this book.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to add it to my Amazon cart.
So
Terrence McKenna suggests that
you will love that book
because of mushrooms.
I'm always magically impressed how Will never seems like he's actively looking for something. He's like, oh, here's this book. It's very related to the topic right now.
I gotta be honest.
Like Dora the Explorer, backpack is right under.
I think that his entire library is so well organized that at any point in time he can find any of his fucking books. He just has it. So it's library esque. It's so organized that he's like, oh, it's on the 3rd shelf to the right.
Do you use the Dewey Decimal System?
No, I mean I keep the stuff I really am constantly referencing nearby. Because you're going to read books that you just kind of put away and just kind of give away and whatever, and it just goes in the filing cabinet. But there's going to be books that you earmark that you're constantly going back to.
Yeah.
Those 2 books are tools, though, aren't they? They're tools for writing?
Well, tools for writing, but also just giving you more understanding and philosophical tools.
Oh, does he have a breakdown of Latin words and Greek?
Well, no, he gives you a history of words. He's a philologist.
Okay.
That's his specialty.
He's got quite a few books, doesn't he?
Oh yeah. In this one, he's talking about how poetry came to exist and why it exists.
Really?
And how to understand the poet and poetry. This one is a history of consciousness and how we perceive things. Hence the word "Saving the Appearances," a history in idolatry. Right.
That actually reminds me quite a bit of Terrence McKenna.
I do not know who that is.
Really?
No.
I don't know a whole lot about him, but I listened to one of his audiobooks when I was on a cross-country trip, and he suggests that the whole reason why we have language is because we ate mushrooms way back in the day, and we developed dreams and psychedelics, and we became...
So shit happens. Sounds
like someone tripped balls, and now we got a bunch of different words.
And
organized randomness.
That's usually the Darwinist explanation when I ask them about like how something comes from nothing. They go, "Shit happens," and I go, "All right, okay, that's a great explanation."
All right, we have one more piece left.
Well, I am actually gonna head out. It
Goodbye,
is
Justin.
that time where it's late for me and where
Fair.
it comes early morning.
Where your right hand man, Chase, who you confide in, will give you a wake up call.
She was charismatic for her age.
Oh Lord.
All right, you have a great night, Justin. Don't forget to go back on Stitch if you haven't already. Justin is an awesome writer, and Will approves it.
And you can
That
confide
stuff
in
is
him.
magical.
It is magical.
I can confide in my right hand man, Justin.
Have a good one.
I'm sorry for whoever wrote that, man. I'm just busting your balls.
It is so
Yeah,
great.
it's I like we said, it's not bad. Just needs a little fix.
It takes a lot of balls to like submit.
It does.
Like that to
I
a
was
bunch of assholes like us.
I was super impressed. We got more than I thought we were gonna get, and I was super impressed that everybody was like, "Yeah, here you go. Here's my stuff. Go ahead and tear it to shreds." And it's like, "Oh shit. Okay, well, And I will say I didn't submit anything despite having plenty. So y'all are ballsier than me. It's mostly.
Oh, we can submit our own thing.
We could have. If you wanted to.
I'm going to go through one of my college papers and submit that.
Oh gosh, 1 page. Well, 1 page. Your college papers are not 1 page.
I'll just take the best page.
The cover page with his name on it.
See, and Jason goes, "Can Will confirm if absolute is good?" No, he cannot.
I'd like to read actually. If I could, can I get an early copy? I'd love to read it.
I don't know if he's gonna. He should. And
That's how
Rick
crazy my
Taylor
notes
wants
are.
to
Look at
know
that.
if I ever let you guys know if it was a chick or a dude. I never specified. Never said.
No.
Does everybody want to know? Is it
I do want to know, actually. Yeah.
It was a guy.
It was a guy.
See,
that wrote that?
It was a
my
guy.
first instinct was right.
Yep.
Because it wasn't 9 pages, and it had brevity, and it was concise.
Well, and the thing
I'm
is,
just gonna
in
step
fact,
away. I'm not even gonna touch that comment at all.
It's true. Women go on and on and on.
This is the thing that I think is interesting, though, is both of
I'm
those
surrounded
poems
by
were
them.
written by a guy. Like both of those poems were written by men.
Dude, I remember my ex-girlfriend. I had to tell her, just give me a fucking order. I don't like giving orders. I like to. Could you just intuit it? I'm like, just tell me what to do. I don't like telling you what to do.
No, if you want an order for my food, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I want. If
Right.
you come back with something less, I'm not gonna be very.
She's like, I'm
happy.
cold. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of cold in here. I'm cool though. I got my jacket on.
Look, Jason says, sure, you can read it, Will. You'll get yours in around October.
Oh, what a dick.
Jesus.
Wow.
I mean, I backed it. I mean,
That's
so
copy.
Punctuation is important, kids. I can find in my right hand. Justin is different from my right hand, Justin.
Ooh.
We're gonna walk away from that now. All right.
Is that
so
a
the last one that
masturbation
we
joke?
have.
Probably.
What?
Most
lost
of
in
them are.
translation.
Was that a masturbation joke?
I think so.
Oh.
Is that?
So
you
anyway,
wanted to-
Ember Dust for Red Valkyrie.
Yes. So Ember Dust is the name of the next one. Luke, you want to read that one?
Sure. I
can read that one.
No,
Wait,
Luke Stone.
which
Luke
Luke?
Stone. The other Luke.
Oh,
Okay,
The
I'm
Luke
other.
that
Luke.
hasn't
I
read.
keep forgetting.
Yeah,
Damn it.
I'm
Is that
other
the-
Luke. That's my official
DMH,
name.
not you.
Is that the druid one?
LSS.
It's the druid one. Yeah.
Ember Dust.
Okay.
The PDF.
Yes. It wasn't the girl's screams that woke Velen Emerald Arms to consciousness. No, it was the burning flesh he realized all too late to be hers. Only one eyed opened for him, despite his efforts. He knew he still had the other, but it was swollen shut. The vision granted to him was still blurry. But the scene remained gruesome. Before him, corpses plenty laid strewn around this once green grotto sanctuary known for its devoted druid circle. It was grayed with ash now, accented with orange embers defining the silhouettes of the plant life that blessed the area. That is, for the exception of the figure on the hill above the divining pool. The figure's long coat cut an unsettling shape from the distance, his auburn hair and beard seeming oddly colorful amongst the devastation. Oh no, Valen thought, as he began to formulate from the utter destruction playing back in his head. It had been a celebration. The rebirth of the Green Man was to be heralded not just by the massive festival, but by the visit from an emerald dragon. The day had started more or less like any other. He had woken next to his wife. Oh, light, no, Valen muttered to himself, trying to make his limbs work. Oddly enough, they did. His thick arms worked clumsily, either being completely numb or stinging from large surface area burns. They served their purpose, bringing him back to his stout, pained legs. It was a fleeting thought, but he noticed his long beard had vanished. There was no time to worry about such things, for the figure in the distance cast a glowing glance, hidden behind large, round spectacles, towards Velen. Velen had not feared much in his life. There were many things taller than him, bigger in fact. All of them fell just as hard when they forced his hand. This place was supposed to change all that. He was a healer now, or was supposed to be. He had gone through the training, the tribulations, and proven that he had changed. So why now, when confronted to take flight or fight, he found himself limping towards the figure in the distance? There were many things Valen could have asked as he approached the figure, as he neared the pain in his legs, finally one forcing him to the ground. The only question that surfaced and escaped his lips in a dry, hollow voice was, why? Valen looked up at the figure. Zelenar Paeticus, I hope I said that right, the dreaded burn mage. Why did you do this? Zelenar reached into his long coat, forcing an involuntary flinch from Valen. From it, he pulled a vial filled with pearlescent fine emerald powder, which seemed to glow. It's getting harder to find such magical beast, my good dwarf, lectured Zelenar. Only through imperative rituals and great stakes do dragons appear anymore. All this just for emerald dust? Velen asked, completely emotionally devastated. What about the village? None of them were inherently magical. Why were they burned? Zelenar roared with a I'm going to mess that word up. Cacophonous, thank you, laughter that echoed through the chamber. As he tucked away the emerald dust with one hand and began working a spell with the other, he aimed the spell at Velenar. That was just a bonus.
All right.
That.
Cacophonous. That's a word you don't run across every day.
Cacophonous. Yeah, it's a good descriptor, but
it really is. It really is.
Yeah, cacophonous when you're surrounded by women.
And I don't think that word means what you think that means.
Yes.
I thought I was going to get booted, but I didn't, unfortunately.
No, you just got demoted. You're now
Demoted.
under Luke. You're under both Lukes.
So now I get to be bottom to Luke? Okay.
We're in the basement playing poker.
Frankie, I would move you up here, but it won't let me do 4 and 1.
I'm kidding. I'm in good company. I'm good.
All right, so thoughts.
I like this one. I mean, I hate to compare, but I like the details. How the details were kind of threaded in there about who he is and what he is, and he was giving you a description of him with his physical and mental state.
Yes.
Right. So like his thick legs, his beard.
Well, that's the thing. The second he said that he noticed his long beard was gone, I was like, dwarf. He's a dwarf.
Oh, yeah, totally.
It wasn't just one paragraph of describing him.
His stout legs.
Right.
Yeah. He didn't have to say he was a dwarf until the end when he said, "Hey, my good dwarf." I was like, "Oh, stout legs, thick arms. Okay,
Yeah.
Everything was taller. Everything was taller and bigger than him.
Yeah.
But they'd all
And he
fallen
sewed
before.
that all together very nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
That's
and
fine.
getting across the feeling of like power and everything, like Luke was saying, where everything was taller, but they all fell at his hand, and it was like, well, the
Yeah,
only
when his
way
hand
that
was
could
forward.
happen.
Yeah, it's a good line.
Yeah, that's only going to happen if you're super solid, but also short. It's like, okay, well, solid, short, beard gone. That has to be a dwarf. And like stout. Like the more he talked, I was like, dwarf. It's definitely a dwarf. And then you get to where he's like, yeah, my good dwarf. I was like, called it. Yes. But that was the one thing that I noticed right away that I really, really liked. The one thing I will say I don't like, but this is just really a thing in fantasy writing overall. I hate overly complicated names just for the sake of overly complicated names, because Valen, Emerald Arms, that last bit is already like, okay, cool, yeah, wow. And then Zelnar Paticus?
Trying to make the name as alien for the sake of alien as you can.
Yeah. Like, I get it because it sells that you're in a fantasy land, and I understand that.
Paticus sounds fine to me. It's just the Zelinar, the add the two Z's,
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, what do you want, Dominic the dwarf? It ain't gonna work.
No, but
I'll take Dominic the dwarf.
I thought he was just marketing a Sicilian, to be honest with you, or someone from Sardinia.
The names that they're using, and I will give him at least this credit, because you never really use last names. When you might say it the one or two times in storytelling, but it's not, unless you're military, you're not walking around calling people by their last name.
Well, you also
a title might work.
Also, Shae, you know what that is really? The problem with that, what you're just saying, and it's something that annoys the hell out of me too, is an attempt to allude to language that they don't know or can't create for their fantasy novel. I'm not saying this guy's doing it. I'm saying this like you said, in general. Because this all stems from Tolkien, who is a linguist, right?
Yeah.
He had the languages first, and then everything built up from the languages, right? So every name has a root, whether it's an Old English or an Elvish or in Quinlan or whatever the Elvish dialect is.
Yeah.
So just like our names have either Germanic or Latin or Greek roots, it's not, your name doesn't come out of a vacuum, right?
Right.
So when they're doing this, they're trying to allude to a language they haven't worked out.
Yeah.
Right. And they're trying to make it sound like a language, and it just sounds weird.
Well,
it sounds contrived.
Valen was good. Like Valiant.
Yeah. Oh no. The
right.
thing is,
Because that's a Latin word.
Right.
Right.
I like the first names, with the exception of I wouldn't do two Z's. That just feels overly complicated for no reason.
Well, one of the Z's is technically silent, so it's kind of pointless.
Pointless. It's just there to give you the look of
Zelnar.
Yeah.
Unless you're gonna really play up like a snake aspect. Like,
right.
Zelnar.
And I definitely think that the first names are really good. The last names I dislike, but then again, that's one of my gripes that is pervasive in all fantasy storytelling. Anyway.
You're not singling out this story.
It always just feels like a complication just to be like, in case you didn't know, you're reading a fantasy, and I'm like
Drizzt
yeah, I got
that. From Dragonlance.
Don't poke Drizzt.
Everyone's favorite dark elf.
I actually enjoyed this, and
I did too.
I'm not like a fantasy fan very often.
No los dos. Why not both?
The sentence structure flowed really well. The one sentence, they served their purpose, bringing him back to his stout, pained legs. That felt a little clunky to me. There would be a better way to say that, like getting to his feet, his stout legs pained him, or something like that.
Yeah, I stumbled over it a little bit, and I noticed that as I did it. It was like that could have went a little easier.
I mean, you get the idea.
Yeah,
but throwing too many adjectives in at once like that kind of breaks up the flow of the sentence.
You guys just reminded me of the one sentence that when Luke stumbled over, I was like, oh, it's missing a word. That's why. Because you said, so why now when confronted to take flight or fight? First off, as an English speaker, and just to be real picky, flip those two. Fight or flight is the way that we would actually say it. Flight or fight sounds fucking
unusual.
Yeah. That's a verbal gear stop.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Totally.
You're missing the word did, because you said, so why now? that whole when confronted to take flight or fight, that part could be dropped out. And this is what a lot of people do when they add in things into their sentence. You could drop that part out and the rest of the sentence still has to flow. So why now he found himself? So why now did he find himself limping towards the figure in the distance? That was one of the parts that the stumble had to do with grammar and the flight or fight being backwards from it's one of those weird things. I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but they have it all over like Twitter, Pinterest, Facebook. There are unspoken rules that every native English speaker knows about the order of precedence of words that come.
Sure.
And it's a very, very specific way, and we all inherently do it. And if you ever fuck it up, everybody who hears it goes, ooh, that doesn't sound right.
Well, like, you know that, Shae, that English is not an inflected language, so we have to have that word order.
Yeah.
You know, in English. Otherwise, we're all confused because our English is defined in its meaning by word order. Right? We don't have, we don't have declension, so we can't just shotgun words and it'll mean the same thing no matter what you do.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's an order.
I don't know if Farsi is Farsi that way. Can you shotgun Farsi? Or does it rely on a word order?
It 1,000% relies on a word order, and the Farsi's word order. So all of the verbs typically come at the end.
Okay.
And the worst part of it is, so if you think of run-on sentences, that's something that we would never do. In Farsi, all of the verbs will stack at the end, and it's basically like fine dining. Your last noun and your first verb go together, and you work your way back out.
I see.
It's insanely fucked up, especially when, for whatever reason, your nouns and your verbs are not the same number. Because then there's
number
a lot
of what?
of,
Like in terms of how many, like a plural or singular?
like if you have 4 verbs stacked at the end, but you only got 3 nouns.
So how do you tell the difference between them?
You
like
be a native
what goes
speaker.
where?
You be a native speaker.
So
That's
there's no way
literally-
to tell which one goes where.
There is, but that's like doctoral level Farsi of understanding how that happens, and in basic speech that they don't do that. But when you get into like classical works of art and stuff, they'll be like, here's 2 verbs, here's 2 nouns, here's 8 verbs, and you're like, what the fuck? And you have to, and that's why there's like currently people debate things like Hafez and Remy, and it's because they do that. Like
Okay,
that
because
is
you're trying
one
to
of the
just
things
discern the
they do.
meaning.
Yeah. But
Oh.
but at some point in time, because when you had like High Persian, like the pure Persian, whatever bullshit you want to talk about, it made sense for them, but they have got so far away from that it's no longer relevant.
Right.
And so now it's almost like a lost art, and now they're trying to like debate and redefine it, and it's
See,
a
Latin's
bitch.
easy because you have the nouns declined, so you have the behavior already tells you what it is by the ending. So if you have a nominative ending, it's the noun's doing something, and then if it has an accusative ending, it's being done too. So the noun will say, he punched. So what punched what, and then you just find the one that's being accused and the one that's doing the accusing, right?
Right.
And that know which, if you shotgun it, you know which one goes where, but based on what the nouns are doing, right?
Well, that's the hard thing with the with Farsi verbs is their ending dictates what noun they go to, but they have the same ending for he, she, or it. So if you have he, it, and then you have a verb that ends in he, she, or it, you're like, which one though?
Oh, so the verbs have a gender.
The verbs. So they don't have a gender, but they have. It's tied back to you, he, she, or it, they. So it's like plural. It's like the pluralness of it and the possession. And then it has the beginning of the verbs have the tense. So present, past perfect, all that stuff is in the beginning. It's
see.
really fucked up, and it's very difficult. and
I
makes me-
don't even have a desire. I'll stick with the Spanish and the Romance languages. Those are
I'm
easy.
learning Esperanto.
Yes, so you can speak to George Soros.
Screw it, man. I barely know English.
All adjectives end in A.
Well, guys. Now this is a long-winded way of saying that in English it is crucial word order because there's no other way to make sense of the language.
Yeah.
And when you have those verbal stops, it's even worse for an English speaker because it's like jamming a splinter into your head. It's like, oh, that's weird. I can't get past that. Like, oh.
Yeah, it very aggressively interrupts a train of thought and makes it very difficult for you to progress past it.
Yeah, it's like Talladega Nights when they put on jazz. You're like, what's this bearing into my brain? What is that?
Yeah.
Put it back in order so I understand it.
Oh my gosh!
It's kind of like when an artificial voice tries to read something. It kind of has a very strange cadence when it pronounces words sometimes, and you can always tell. I mean, they've gotten a lot better, which is simultaneously cool and fucking terrifying.
I've heard some, yeah.
Well, that's how people troll StreamYards, talk to text or whatever. They're like, ha 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 ha, bro. And they'll do like those long ass like donations, and they'll troll people with the talk to text because you confuse the talk to text. Ha 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 ha. It'll go on for like 10 minutes.
That would be cool if you could actually get it to like do like a beat, like ha 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 ha.
It's got a beat.
That'd be cool. But
yeah, for a while back in the old days when I would say call Dan Fraga, Don Fraga.
Just keeps adding in Jesus like Don Fragaga, and you're like, that's not what I
Fragaga.
said at all.
Calling Fraga Boom.
Fraga. Oh,
gotta make clear words.
Calling Frankie Tartamella.
Oh, please. My name's been butchered for years. I gave up.
Oh, my first name is the best. Like, just because people can't even remember it, and so I get called all kinds of crazy stuff. But if you actually put it into a computer to have it say it, it'll be like, oh, calling Shalesi, and I'm like,
Shalesi.
What the fuck? It's like you're not.
Sounds
What?
like a Star Wars planet.
Like,
we had the battle of Shilesi.
I used to get called Chelsea all the time, and I was like, did you think my parents really wanted to name me Chelsea, but we got to be edgier than that? SH.
God,
It was
Chelsea's
like,
such a hoe name. I've
so
met too many
not-
Chelseas.
Okay, total sidetrack. Why you say that, and the only Chelsea that comes to mind is a girl that I used to watch literally shove boys out of her bedroom door when her mom out of her window when her mom got home onto the front
Remember,
steps.
I showed you
so
those
they could run
pictures
away.
of
Yes.
the
You got a number?
bitch I was
You got a
dating.
number?
She was Mormon.
You
remember?
don't want her.
And she was like, I'm a goody two-shoe Mormon. And she was like, all over the place, including with me.
Yeah, I mean, to be wholly honest, at no point in time did Chelsea ever claim to be Mormon, but like more than once, shoving half-naked boys out of her window, and like my dad would be outside working on his bike, and all of a sudden a 17-year-old boy, literally in boxers and socks, holding all of his clothes, was like running to his car, and he'd go,
I have the photos to prove it.
he would stand there and go, hey son, how's it going? And the guy'd be like, good. And he's all, yeah, you maybe want to put some clothes on before you start running away from that house? And he was like, I thought I'd get in my car first.
You just reminded me of a story that happened to me when I first moved to Florida. I was in Boca. The people before us, the house we rented, were from Long Island, and the daughter was a hoochie, I guess, a hoochie mama. We're sleeping. I'm sharing the room with my brother, I think. Yeah. And you just hear a knock on the window. I'm like, what? So I'm like, what the hell? I don't know. I ignored it. And I get a bang, boom, boom on the window. I'm like, what the fuck? I open the shades and I see two teenage boys. One's on a moped and one's right behind me, like knocking. He's like, she's not in there, bro. They get on the freaking motorbike and they zoom off. And my parents even heard the noise. They were, what the hell was that? I said, I don't know. Two kids were banging on the window over here.
You're looking for a booty call.
My older brother, my father, they grip stick bats and they go chase them with the van, and they find the cop by the park, and they're like, we got these guys banging on the windows. He's like, they're just looking for a good time. I guess the girl lived there, doesn't live there anymore, so.
Damn, you were at the ticket window.
Oh my God. He looked right at me. He's like, we're face to face. He's like, bro, she's not in there.
Some dude.
My brother had that room in the house, and he used to sneak his girlfriend in and out through the window. Now his wife, but the one time, like he used to shut his door and lock it, and like my mom was one of those moms where there are no closed doors in my house, especially if you have a friend of the opposite sex
No
over.
more locked doors.
Yeah, like that's my mom, right? And so she knocked on his door and she hears them shuffling in there, and she goes, Tracy, come open this door right now. And he was like, oh, what? Oh, I just woke up. And meanwhile, he's like, go out the window. She's like, I can hear you. Like, really? Open the fucking door. He's going back and forth like, oh no, but I just gotta put pants on. I don't got pants on. I just woke up. And like, is trying to play this whole thing off. So my mom looks to my dad and she goes, go stand out in the carport. I'm pretty sure that Chris is getting pushed out the window right now. He goes and stands in the carport and she drops down and he goes, hey, Chrissy, you want to come with me real quick? And she was like, sure. Back in the house. Like one of my youngest memories ever is my brother and his girlfriend at the time sitting on a bed. I had just woken up from a nap and was all like sleepy-eyed little kid, right? I'm just like, tired. And my mom is standing in my brother's doorway screaming at them about like, what would your father think if I called him right now, Chris? And she's like, please don't call my dad. Oh my gosh, he'll kill me. And they're like going back and forth, and all my sister comes along. She's like, oh no, come on, sweetie, let's go play dolls. Yeah, like ushered me into another room. But it came to my brother taught me how to break out of the house, out of that bedroom window, because it had like a little half wall, so you could just climb out the window and onto the wall. It was horrible. And I definitely used it a lot.
And then did you push the car down the street before you started it?
No, I started going. My parents are really old, so I started going out the front door and taking the keys and filling up their tank when I brought it home. And like, I finally had the guts to confront my mom about this, right? And I was like, you know, I used to steal the car, right? And she goes, you what?
They didn't know the mileage, like in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and you had to put it on stilts and like rewind it.
No, my mom and dad legit. I asked her, she goes, I didn't even notice that there was more gas in the car. I was like, do you know how many times I took it and it had a fourth of a tank, and then you would get in it and it would be full and you didn't realize that? And she goes,
we have magical elves.
There's some gasoline fairy filling up the car every night. And I go, Mom, you know that you busted me once, right? Because you locked me out. Like I started going out the front door and I just left the front door unlocked, and then I would take the board out of the sliding door as a backup. My mom woke up one night, deadbolted the front door, and because when she very first moved in there long before I was born, somebody tried to break into the house, and so they broke her deadbolt, so it only worked from the inside, that no key could unlock it. Wow. And so
my sister was deadbolted like
it, and I was like
out all the time.
She deadbolted it. I'm like, fuck, I can't get out. Like I can't get back in. I was like, that's fine. I'll go to the sliding door. I go to the sliding door. My mom had kicked the board back in the door, and so I couldn't open the door. And I was like, shit. Like, how the fuck do I get out of here? So I was trying to figure out how to break back into my house. I tried to slide the basement window open. I snapped the double pane and was like, oh fuck. Like I got it like a half inch and it snapped all the way across, and I was like sliding that back shut. Like, never mind.
I didn't do that.
Yeah, oh, my dad thought he did it. Like my dad thought he did it.
You have some nice parents.
It's just really, they're very
my dad fucked my sister up when we got a call from the cops. That's how many times she got caught when the cops called.
I never see.
Go bail her out.
That's a story. That's a story right there.
Yeah, let's hear that one.
I don't know what she did. She's the queen of Venice, though. She was my sister put it this way: high school was an office for my sister. It's where she went to get her messages and her coffee, and then she'd get on with her day.
Right.
You know, and she was basically the queen of Venice. And I didn't know. I just knew a bunch of dudes were nice to me because she was my sister. You know, that's all I remember. Like. Now put in a good word for us.
Uh,
I was like, why are all these dudes nice to me, Sally? Because you're my brother and they like me. Oh, well, I don't like you. You tried to kill me when I was a little kid.
You're a pain in the ass.
I told you she tried to take me as a baby and leave me somewhere.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I remember.
I managed
My
to
brother
forget
tried to
that
kill me
story.
numerous times.
Vinny tried to kill you?
No, my older brother.
Okay. Oh, that's sad.
He Shako Zulu'd me once in the basement where he took off he snapped the broomstick and he threw the stick at me, Shaka Zulu style. I jumped out of the way and it went through the basement door, sticking through there. If I stood there, it would have went right through my chest.
So Frankie,
that's hilarious.
My mother flipped out. Which there's a fucking broomstick sticking through that goddamn basement door. I had my brother, same brother, third floor by 6 inches, almost pushed me out a 3-story window. He rammed me basically, charged me like a football player, lifted me up, put me through the wall. I was sitting in the wall. My feet were dangling. And I was 6 inches from the window. 3 stories.
So basically, your oldest
Yeah.
brother was Bowser, and you and Frankie were the Super Tartamilla brothers.
Yeah, I wish. I'd like
And
to
you
throw a
guys
fireball at him.
were just dodging like turtle shells and he's throwing them at you.
Oh no, I get him back. I'd hit him and then run, come to the kitchen. I'd be waiting for the steel broomstick and just crack him in the knees. We beat the shit of each other.
I tried to hide
stuff
behind
we
my
did.
dad, and my dad would just say, "Hey, you got to you got to pay a man's price. You play a man's game."
I mean,
Italian
I
boys
almost
don't
died
fuck
at the age 11, so everything after age 11 is bonus time for me. I'm not kidding. I almost died for the bicycle accident, and I did it to myself.
How?
With a bicycle, where, okay, I had these friends, Nick and Joe, the Veruzzi twins. These names are great. I know. I'm not making it up. They were
fucking
teaching me.
Veruzzi twins.
They were showing me, exactly, I blame these. Anyway, they were showing me these tricks, like, I can do a front end on a BMX bike. You do like a front end. You hold the front brake and you go up. Well, the bike I had was a Schwinn Predator. It only had a rear brake. So these two guys tell this genius, hey, if you stick your foot right in front with the bike frame and the tire, you'll go up. Okay. So I start all the way down to my driveway, and I'm pedaling as fast as I could, which is a big no-no to doing the front end. I go on the grass. I have a leaky spigot from my hose. The grass is wet. So I go and stick my foot in there. My foot gets sucked up this way, inside between the fork and the tire. I'm like, oh, I broke my foot. Uh-oh. And I realize I'm in the air like this, doing the front end at top speed. The tire slips on the wet grass. The handlebars turn this way. And I basically am getting impaled right on my solar plexus.
Jesus.
About a couple of days prior, I had just bought mushroom grips. I don't know if you guys remember them. They're brand new. And the end cap, they were brand new, thank God, because I had just raw metal.
Oh, I see. I get it.
If it was just raw metal,
It would have gone right through you.
it would have gone right.
Gone.
right
I
to
got
you.
wings and a halo.
So basically, just
Horns.
knocked the wind out of you.
What it did was, it made the imprint of the mushroom on my chest, knocked the wind out of me. I stopped breathing. I'm like,
I bet you did.
And
that's
I
just
was-
scary shit when you get that
was
kind of
my
wind
first-
knocked out of you.
Without knowing what it was my first panic. I'm like, I ran into the house and I'm like, my mom's like, she don't know what the hell's going on. She's washing the dishes. Like, what the Frank? What's? I go, she goes, you can't breathe. I'm like, you know what she did? She just takes her hand and goes, wow, smacks me as hard as she could across the face.
Yep.
All the air
That's
came
what
out. I'm like,
moms do.
Sounds
she's
about
like, what
right.
happened? I lift my shirt up. She's like, what the? And there's a mushroom cartoon logo icon imprinted on my chest. And I have a concave chest right now from this accident from back then.
Fucking hell.
If I didn't get those new
That's
hand grips,
horrifying.
There would be no pigeon.
no, I'd be flying.
I was hitting the head with an aluminum bat when I was a kid.
I was
That's
like,
what
God.
that's what
That
Jason
explains
said.
a lot.
I brained my cousin with a brick for pissing me off.
Dude, I got
Jesus, man.
I forget what
Busted open his head and everything. I was so happy.
I had a friend that got hit by a car right in front of me. And we laughed. We laughed our asses off because the car stopped. It hit him. And then he rolled. So he just got the end of it, like a little snap impact. And he just rolled down the street.
Horrible.
He just broke his arm. He was fine.
He just broke his arm. Who gives a shit?
And then my friend south the corner, he ran into an ice cream truck. Not the other way around. The ice cream truck's coming, and we all got our money. And he's like, wait, I got money. And the truck stopped, and he literally ran into the back of it and smashed his face.
And you're trying to chase the ice cream truck. You know that fucker always drove like 4 extra blocks.
He was already stopped. He thought he was moving. He ran.
You know that one, Frankie, when you hear him coming, you run in the house, you're screaming at your mom, give me change. You're chasing him down the street for like 2 miles, and that fucker's still going.
Hey, I'm Sicilian. I always got money in my pocket.
So it's
I got to pay the big.
Jason's talking about getting hit in the head with an aluminum bat. I got hit in the head with a putter.
Oh, good lord.
Who hit you with a putter?
That's tough.
My quote unquote friend.
Dude, he's like, hey, check this out.
We didn't know how to golf, and we didn't know that there was a difference between an iron and a putter. And so my friend was holding the golf club like a fucking idiot. For some reason was holding it like backwards. Like if they were going to putt left-handed, or like I guess we were slicing. But if they were going to do it left-handed, but they were standing on the right side, so it was like reversed and looked really fucking weird. And I was like, whoa, hold on a second. And so she doesn't respond to me, but she stands up completely straight and she relaxes her shoulders. And so I was like, okay, she heard me. So I started walking to her because I was going to help her with her hands. And I swear to you, the second I got within distance, she swings back and I caught the very end of it right over my eye. I actually have a scar still. But she hit me in the head and it felt like a goose egg. And so I was like holding my head and I was like, oh, son of a bitch. And like, she just looked at me and her eyes were bright white. She was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry, I'm so sorry. I was like, it's fine. And then I pulled my hands down and I was just gushing blood.
Oh.
Like I was just like pouring. Head wounds bleed so much.
Oh, yeah.
I know, especially near the eye area, like right here.
So
Little blood.
I started hyperventilating because I was like, that's a lot of blood. I feel like I'm losing all of my blood and I'm going to die now. And so I like panic attack, rushed to my dad, who's the one that let us play with golf clubs. And, and he was like, what the fuck? Son of a bitch, I shouldn't have let you play with shit. Go talk to your mother. And I'm just like, I'm going to die. You're yelling at me. And so like, I run in to see my mom and she looks at me. She's like, what? Because she just hears me wailing. And I like moved my hand down. She goes, oh, for fuck's sake. And then she just threw a rag at me. And she goes, fold that up and put it on your head. And I was like, what? Yelling at me. She's like, get in the damn car. We got to go to the ER.
Yeah, what is that? We always get yelled at when we got hurt. I'm like, it's like an accident. It's like, you stupid kids.
So,
damn it, why were you dumb?
We're going to the ER. And I'm sat here holding this thing and I'm doing that kid cry where you're trying to calm yourself down, but you can't. And I was like, just like constant, right? And my mom goes, will you stop? And I was like, I can't. I'm gonna die.
I hate
like,
you.
Right? She's like, you're fine. And so then she goes, you need to move the rag. So I moved the rag around. She goes, don't point the blood out. You're freaking out everyone here. And I was like, I'm sorry. Everyone else is having a difficult time with my head wound.
Where were you cut? Where were you cut? Right above the eyebrow? Or
yeah, so I have a slice right here. And it's like perfectly horizontal too. The weirdest part is I go back there and they had to give me a numbing shot in my forehead. If you've ever had one of those, super fun. You got bone real quick there, so it's just a lot of poke and move. And I think at one point, like he moved it to try and shoot more of the numbing like liquid in, and it shot out this sword. He was like, oh. Like it goes from the other side. I was like, oh gosh, like I'm leaking. It was horrible. And so I'm sitting there waiting for them, and they were super, super packed. And I was just on a gurney with like a sheet, right? That's all it was. And there's a kid on a gurney across from me, and his sheet is pulled, and this kid is screaming bloody murder. Like someone is killing this child is what it sounded like. So then they go and they move the curtain back and everything when they're done. And he sits up, and this kid, I shit you not, over the exact same fucking eye, has the same number of stitches I'm about to get. This is the only time the first time I ever got stitches. He has the same number of stitches that I'm about to get. His friend also hit him in the head with a putter.
What
at the same fucking time of day.
Twinning!
It was so he's sitting here and he's like crying but sucking on a lollipop, and she goes, see, it wasn't that bad. He goes, it's okay. So he was like eating this lollipop, and I looked at him and I was like,
all respect for him.
So this kid was like 6.
How old were you?
About 11.
Okay.
Right, like 11 or 12, and so this
I'll
kid's
give him a
like
pass.
6
I'll
years old,
give him a pass.
and he was screaming like he was dying. And this is the first time I ever have to go get stitches. I was like, nope, like don't want it. And so they took so long to come back and give me stitches. I felt every single one of them, and I felt as they pulled the thread through, I could feel all of it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, just end it, just be done. And then afterwards, my mom made me walk around with her at Walgreens. She was like, well, I have to go fill your pain pill prescription. And while I'm here, I might as well get this, this, and this. And so I had to walk around with it. I saw the bloody rag. And she goes, will you put that away? I was like, where would you like me to put my blood-soaked rag? Like, I didn't come prepared to hide the shame you feel for your daughter getting hit in the head with a golf club.
You know, I almost had a head wound, but it was my mother that did it. Yes. What? So I was 12 years old. And I was supposed to do the dishes. But at this time I had grown, hit a growth spurt, and I was about I was head and shoulders above my mom.
Okay.
And it was the first time that I had made the mistake of disrespecting a woman. And it was also the last time I made the mistake of disrespecting a woman. I remember sitting there and I start sizing it up. You know, it's like, I'm bigger than her. I don't need to do these dishes. I don't want to do these dishes. It's her job to do these dishes. And I looked at her and I said, she's like, do the dishes. And I said, no, woman, you do the dishes. Right? Right? I didn't know. I didn't know. But I did. She looked at me. She said, what did you say? And I was like, and I knew there was a mistake there, but I'm like, well, I got to be a man. I got to double down on this. I can't backpedal, right? And I said, you heard what I said, woman. You do the dishes. At that time, my mother's face, like she was like 5'3", 5'4", and but her face changed and her voice changed. And she picked up the coffee mug and she was like sitting there. She's like, you talk. I mean, she was saying stuff. I couldn't even. It was like another language, like abyssal or something like that. It was like some language you would hear in one of these fantasy books, like you're talking about, right? And so I was like, what are you gonna do? Throw that mug at me? As I'm backing up, like trying to be shy. Like I'm trying to make some distance between the two of us. And she goes. She goes, damn right. And she chucks this mug at my head, right? And I duck out of the way just in time for it to shatter on the wall behind me. And little shards hit me. And so cut my ear and cut the side of my face. And then I look around, I look at it, and I turn back and I get ready to say something. And at that time, she's got a fly swatter in her hand. And she starts smacking me across the face with this thing. She chases me to my room. I am 6'1". Okay, I'm a 12-year-old that's 6 foot. I was really tall at the time. No, I wasn't quite 6 foot. I was probably like 5. I was tall. All right. But I chased my room. I locked the door. My dad gets home and I hear her like rah, 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 in the background, like just telling my dad what I had done. And so my dad comes in the room. Like he was like, and he sits down on the bed and he goes, I heard what you did to your mom. I said, yeah. He goes, did you learn? I said, don't mess with mom. He goes, all right, I think you got the lesson. He gets up and walks out. He didn't even beat me because he knew I had learned not to do that. And so, yeah.
Wow. That's funny.
I don't know.
Right.
I always got the belt.
Jason, thank you for the $2. He says, you didn't see. I rolled my car end over end 4 times. I did see. I actually brought it up on the screen for a little bit, but we didn't talk about it. Yeah. Very terrifying, he said. It was like a painful roller coaster. My friend was in the passenger seat and ended up in the back. He'd have been killed if he had been wearing a seatbelt, which is so scary. And I would have been dead if I wasn't. That's
That happened to my father.
Yeah. Oh, my grandfather used to race up and down Pikes Peak. Like, he's actually, if you go to Pikes Peak and you go to the they have a museum at the base of Pikes Peak.
Oh, okay.
His car is actually in the museum at Pikes Peak.
Oh,
with the little thing about him. He went over the edge. His car rolled all the way down to just before a drop off that was drop off a cliff.
Is that the dirt road race that goes up the mountain and back, or? Okay,
Yeah, it spirals all the way up the mountain, and the
right. Okay.
altitude and everything is so high that the weather changes as you drive it.
Right. I know which one it is.
Yeah, so he used to race it frequently. Well, he crashed so bad that his front and back tires were kissing.
Wow.
Like he wrecked it. I actually did an entire report on my grandfather, and I had the pictures of the wreckage of his car. His car was indiscernible. It just looked like a heap of metal. But what was the funnier picture is I have a picture of him climbing up the mountain and two fat EMTs chasing after him. And he's like up here on the mountain and they're like all the way down here. Right. And I remember asking him about it. And I was like, Grandpa, why, like, you had to climb up the mountain to get to the ambulance? And he goes, well, the second time. I was like, I'm sorry, what? And he goes, so they took a gurney and they had a winch and they took it all the way down to him and they strapped him up in it, had the little neck brace and everything. Mm-hmm. And they were dragging the gurney back up. And when he got about 5 or 6 feet from the top, cable broke.
Oh my.
He slid attached to a gurney all the way back down to his wrecked car.
Oh my God.
My grandfather was so pissed. He unhooked himself from all of everything, took off the neck brace, everything, and was like, fuck this shit. And starts climbing up the mountain. And while he's climbing up the mountain, the EMTs are screaming out, like, you shouldn't be walking. You need to lie down. And he was like, yeah, thanks. Did that. It's good. So he gets up, he climbs over the railing and everything. He sits, gets in the back of the ambulance, lays down, leans over to the ambulance guy, and like everyone is just in shock because he should have been a paraplegic. That's how bad the car crash was. Wow. He shouldn't have been able to walk ever again. He walked all the way up the mountain, climbed in the back, looks at the paramedic and goes, can you please take me to the emergency room? And he was like, oh, uh-huh. They were just like
the power of pissed off.
If the wreck didn't kill him, they were gonna do it.
Yeah, he weren't playing when he got up there. It was like, take me to the hospital. And they were like,
no.
Yep, right away, no problem. Like drove him to the hospital. And you know, there's interviews, there's actually a quote in there from my grandfather. And he said, they said I should have been a paraplegic. That would have been worse than dying in my eyes. But my grandpa's he was a badass dude. He was crazy. He was like 6'4", 6'5". Wow. Really wanted to be a fighter pilot, and they told him no. So he learned how to fly a commercial airplane, and then he came back and he goes, I got my pilot's license, so will you let me be a fighter pilot now? And they went, it had nothing to do with your intellect, it had everything to do with the fact that you won't fit in a cockpit. And he was like, okay, well. He's like, now I know how to fly a plane, so whatever.
Man, sounds like at the time those 3 dudes sliced my dad up.
Huh?
Okay, you got to tell that story.
Similar ending, because he had to drive himself to the hospital before he died. Or before he was going to die of bleeding to death from his arteries, his major artery.
Wow.
But he was only 5'4", you know. So he made the mistake of stopping in a bathroom in Inglewood in 1979. If anyone's from LA, Inglewood back then was one of the 3 main ghettos next to South Central and Compton. Actually, no, 4 and Watts. Now it's all Latino. They've all came in and they gentrified it. All the Latinos kicked everyone out. And my dad didn't feel like sitting in LA traffic. He had need to take a piss, so he went to the gas station, and 3 dudes followed him in there. Said, "Give me your money." He said, "Here's my money." And then they said, "Oh, that's not good enough." And they proceeded to slice him up. And my dad, fearing for his life, fought back. And they managed to cut him down his arm.
Oh,
like that. But that was the main wound, was to get down here. But he got so pissed off, that fucking illegal alien anger came out. And he started fighting, the tribe versus tribe kind of thing, that only tribe versus tribe can really work, and managed to scare them off because he was, crazy little guy, bouncing around. But then he had to drive to the hospital, and the police told us, or my mother, I wasn't born yet, that his car was wall-to-wall blood.
Ooh.
And he should have been dead. Like, he shouldn't have been able to drive himself to the hospital.
That's crazy.
I guess it's all those years of abuse by my grandfather, toughened him up.
Wow.
One time my grandfather actually hung him like St. Peter by his toes from a tree in the back of the barn.
So
these stories
sound like strange ritual.
So I guess there's one good thing that came out of child abuse.
He was a tough bastard. He's annoying, but he's a tough bastard.
Yeah, that's like my grandfather, but I can't say his stories on the air. I just can't.
Yeah,
I can't. I can't.
My dad was the kind of guy who would get down on one knee and look at you eye to eye and go, "Look, Will, you need to not do that, young man." And he was like, take out the belt and and it was just that. He just had one setting. That's why my mom never told him anything. Because he would just beat your ass, right? He was not going to talk to you. So everything my mother handled our discipline most of the time, because the moment he heard about it, we're just getting an ass whooping.
That was the answer to everything.
Yeah, I mean, because I don't really blame him for it. That's all he knew, was essentially that's how you discipline kids, just beat their asses.
I got the double dose. My mother beat me with the wooden spoons. I must have cracked.
I got the wooden spoon for my mom.
Three cracked over me, and I would laugh. And then she went to metal, and then I learned to run. And I get beat by her, and then she goes, "Oh, wait till your father comes home." So I got a double dose.
That would scare the shit out of me when she would tell me that. I'm going to talk to your father. That scared the shit out of me.
Exactly.
Just go ahead and beat me right now.
And my father's a barber, so I actually have it in my closet.
Can I just self-flagellate and get it
I got the barber strap, the leather barber strap.
Oh,
it's double, and that thing is like this wide.
Mm-hmm.
I remember
in the back of the knee is when it hurt the most.
I remember a friend of mine, their grandparents were like, "Go cut a switch when you messed up," and so his little sister was like, "Oh, okay, I'll go cut a switch." So she cut a thin one, thinking it will hurt less.
Hell no.
Stupid.
She learned.
She doesn't know nothing about that.
She learned, like, she was like, "Here, Grandpa, I got a switch," and she was like, "Ha, I'm so smart." And he went, "That's the one that you know what's funny? She goes, "Yeah,
it's worse. It's worse."
You know what's really hilarious to me about the cycle of abuse thing is that my dad, he beat up his father when he got old enough and threatened to kill him. And I suspect my dad left when I was getting to the point where I was going to kill him. You know what I mean? Because he was like, "Oh, shit, this dude's older than me, and I'm an old man, and I'm kind of pissing him off and dogging out his mom. So I think he's going to kill me. I better leave." And he left. And I was getting to the point where I was kind of building up to beating his ass. And I was a little sad that I couldn't consummate that. I think we would have bonded.
My dad and I bonded over a fist fight, so yeah.
Isn't it kind of funny? Because my dad loved him the most of all of his brothers for doing that to him. Right? And I think my dad would have been the same if I mean, he was getting to that point, because I was getting to that point where I'm like, old man, I'm paying for your cell phone. I'm paying for your bullshit. You got to stop being a prick. And I would yell at him from time to time because he just got on my nerves. But he left before I could get mad enough to really fight with him, to really do that, like what you just did, Luke Stone.
Mm-hmm.
That's why my sister's so ruthless. Right, she gets that from my father. And I was thinking about this other day with my sister. I was like, our talks always were swirling in my head. And I was like, you know who would fall in love with my sister? Luke, death metal hero. You would love my sister, Luke. She would have you wrapped around her little finger.
Fuck you.
You would adore my sister, Luke. You've got the temperament of the kind of guy that that is attracted to her.
Fucking fantastic. Thank you for telling
Yeah,
me
these
I'm
tall,
like
big
4 million
dudes who
other
look like
fucking
bikers.
breaks.
You know what I mean?
So how about this? I broke my grandmother's leg with a fucking golf cart one time.
By accident?
Yes, by accident.
Yes.
Could have been like a throw mama from the train.
Ever do anything like that on purpose?
I could have been throw mama from the train kind of situation.
No, you know, it was. I was visiting for the summer. I was 12, and we were at the what is it? The country club, and they allowed me to drive the golf cart, and that was a grand time. It was fun. My grandfather, you know, hit his ball, and he got on, and then my grandmother hit her ball, and she was getting on. I thought she had sat down. And I could have sworn my grandfather said go. So, of course, being 12, I tromped down on the gas pedal. We go flying forward. And I'm going along, heading towards the balls. And I keep getting this pat on my arm. And stop. And apparently Nara wasn't quite seated properly. And she kind of fell out. Golf cleat got stuck in the grass and spiral fractured her leg.
Ooh. Oh my!
So I had to turn the golf cart around. Saw her laying there on the green. Yeah, spent the next like 4 hours in the hospital. Read like 4 books. Yeah, it was.
I almost blew my mom up once.
Oh my gosh! Why are these just progressively?
These are
getting
awesome.
worse?
Season finale. This is a great.
Well,
season
yeah.
finale.
Okay. So
I just had like this thought of like a pile of Acme dynamite and your mother's like shooting up
so
in the moon.
Not that dramatic, but it was the 4th of July. Okay, it's the 4th of July, and I got to describe my mother to you. Her name was Bertha. She hated to go by Bertha. Okay, but sometimes we would call her Bertha just to make her mad. But she used to wear these muumuus. You guys know what a muumuu is?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, so she would wear these muumuus, and she would wear these. I thought they were nightgowns, but she would wear them in public. You know, like they were just a dress.
I just realized, Luke.
What's that?
I think that muumuus are a pretty like huge thing in Utah, but not other places.
Well, we
Like,
were in Indiana. We lived in Indiana, so we weren't
Okay,
from
so
Utah.
maybe not. I just know that all of my
What?
grandmother and her friends all had like muumuus. That was what they lived in.
Yeah, my mom would wear a muumuu, and so what was happening? My brother every year would go down to Tennessee, and he would pick up the illegal fireworks because you weren't allowed to have the big boomers in Indiana. So he would go buy the illegal fireworks, and he would come back for the 4th
Safe
of
and
July.
sane.
Exactly right, and so we didn't have all of it because we were rednecks, so we didn't like get all of the stuff that you needed to properly launch off these fireworks, and so it was basically a pipe and a cinder block that was propped in there well enough to make it stay, and so that's kind of what we did. But I was lighting some fireworks, and we were kind of screwing around a little bit, and the pipe fell over, and the firework, this big like illegal like big boomer, shoots up over the underneath the picnic table in the next yard where mom is sitting, and the firework, it goes off underneath her muumuu.
Holy smoke!
It goes off underneath her muumuu. So my mom, and she was kind of a big lady, so she gets up and she's like jumping around and she's yelling about these stupid kids and all this kind of stuff, right? Well, it turns out that she was fine, but it had burnt a hole in the muumuu, and that is why we got in trouble, because we ruined her
You and the
muumuu.
muumuu.
How dare you ruin
What was the name of
her
those,
lady
those
tent?
cool ones? Were they Black Panthers? Were they really cool fireworks?
Yeah, they were amazing. Yeah, they were the Phantom, whatever. He would come down to the big one, and buy them out of like someone's trunk, that kind
And
of
we
thing.
have the bottle rocket wars where we put like pipes on it and put like 1 million of them and shoot them at each other.
Yes,
We have
yes,
trash
yeah.
cans for shields.
Oh yeah. He had a fireworks guy, and so buy the illegal ones out of somebody's trunk. It was crazy.
We used to shoot each other with the little pipes, and we shoot each other with the bottle rockets because we're morons.
Yeah.
I don't know how I
Oh
learned.
yeah, me and a buddy of mine one 4th of July, we would literally like just light off bunches of them and just throw them at each other. It was
now kids
not
are like,
smart.
we don't do that. We played on the Nintendo
do
Switch.
anything. We didn't do any of that. The closest that we had. So do you guys know the dancing rose, right?
Yeah.
The
firework?
Yeah. It's like a little tube. You light it and it like spins around really fast and it changes color and it looks like a little rose thing and it kind of hops everywhere.
Sure. I like
Okay.
those better.
I don't know what gypsy one of my childhood friends pissed off, but she pissed off some fucking gypsy that cursed her anytime one of those were lit. It would absolutely burn her every single time.
Did she start losing weight until she was thinner?
That would have been hilarious, but no. She was super tiny. So what ended up happening is
That's a bad movie.
They
Great short
decided
story though.
Yeah.
they decided that they were gonna light all these fireworks, and they were like, we're gonna light the roses. And my friend was like, okay, I hate these ones, so I'm gonna go and stand at the top of the stairs by the front door. And it was like 7 or 8 stairs to get up there. They were lighting them like 20 feet from where the stairs even started. So she was like, okay, safe zone. Has to be the safe zone. One of these fucking things hopped all the way up there, and my friend was so panicked she froze instead of going inside and shutting the door. And it bounced all the way up the fucking stairs and stung her and got her right on her ankle.
Oh shit, that's a jumping jack. We call those jumping jacks.
It happened every single year, to the point that after that time that it happened, her family made a new rule. They were no longer allowed to buy dancing roses. They're like, we're no longer allowed to have these fireworks. Every time we light one, Brandy gets burned.
Oh wow. I mean,
every time.
Fire shall seek you
We're
out.
in Queens, New York. We have dealers come around and sell us fireworks out of the trunk of their caddies. We're 10, 11 years old. And we're like buying firecrackers and all this big, heavy-duty shit. You guys want to gross? No, I'm good with a pack. I mean, my older brother, I don't know how he got his hands on it, he came home with a pineapple. You know what that is? Quarter stick of dynamite. And he put it on top, right in front of my driveway. In the driveway, we had a manhole cover. He lit it on top. And let me tell you, the fuse, it literally looks like dynamite. It's red with a green fuse, and it's a short fuse. So you light it with a punk, that long stick, and haul ass. That thing jumped. It made the manhole cover jump out of its hole. I mean, it's 1.5 inches thick. Boom, 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 and land. The entire block. All the car alarms went off. I mean, it was insane.
So
we ran like, watch out for the cops.
Wow.
I used to work for this company called Heilig Meyer. They were a furniture company up in Indiana, and I would drive. I drove a delivery truck, and so me and my partner in the truck. It was right after Halloween, not Halloween. It was right after 4th of July. I had a whole bunch of those bottle rockets, and so we thought it'd be funny if we're driving down the road to shoot them out the window. You know, as we were driving down, down the road, and
out of a soda bottle, or
yeah. We were shooting them out of the So, but we actually got in a little bit of trouble when one of them flew in a passerby's car. Like, we didn't realize everything, but it went right into someone's car and blew up right in the front seat. Yeah. So,
shit.
yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That was fun.
That's when Halloweens were fun. Like, fuck the dressing up. You know, now everyone's retrogressing into dressing up. We're like, fuck it, we're gonna go blow shit up. You know, like, that's when you were anarchist.
Exactly. The 80s were fun, man.
And now kids are like, oh, we're gonna now, like 20-year-olds or 15-year-olds, like, we're gonna dress up and go to a dance. Like, fuck that. We had shaving cream fights. We had we teeped people's houses.
I mean, I had a 22-year-old knock on my door last Halloween and go, I don't have a costume, but I was wondering if I could just have some candy. And I was like, you can go buy your own.
Yeah. It was like
you're the one who
I had a couple of them coming to my door. I'm like, motherfucker, aren't you a little old for this?
I give them a wanted page. They'll get a job.
So I was 23 when I did that, and I had a child, and I was married. So
well done.
You had a reason.
Yeah, that was like 2003 when I was doing that stuff. So
this kid is like the stoner kid that lives next door that asks if he can cut my lawn for $20, and then kind of cuts the lawn.
Kind of cuts it for $20.
Kind of. Like, I'm just saying, like, when you have 8-year-olds that come around and do it better, like, that's sad. And it absolutely, like, 8-year-olds do cut the grass way better than this 20-year-old. So he just came around and he was like, I don't have a costume, but can I, like, have some candy? And I just looked at him and I was like, okay.
I know this dude voted for Bernie.
And candy's expensive, man.
I think I gave him like 2 pieces because I had like 3 bags left because no kids came that year, and so I was like, simply because I have a PT test coming up, and if this all stays here, I will eat it.
Did you give him a York
And,
and
and when
patty?
did
No,
bags of
those are
candy become
delicious.
so expensive?
You like them?
Seriously.
When they started saying fun size meant it was for Halloween. It just every year it gets more and more expensive. In fact, it goes right up there with. I was reading this the other day. Somebody said that they saved thousands upon thousands of dollars for their wedding by not telling the people that they were ordering goods from that it was for a wedding.
Aha.
Like they went to a bakery and they ordered like 100 cupcakes. And they didn't tell them that it was for a wedding. What they did prior to that for their tasting is they picked like 6 or 8 cupcakes that they thought like in flavors they thought they would like. And they just bought them and then took them home and tried them out and picked the one that they wanted and then went back and put in an order for like 100 cupcakes.
Yeah, you know this phenomenon. You're in the Air Force where suddenly a fucking toilet seat is $1,000.
Yeah. Wonderful. Oh, here's the other fun thing. Last little gripe that I'm going to say before we're going to end the stream. One of my favorite things to find out is military discount doesn't always mean a discount. Because sometimes they assume the government is footing the bill, so it actually costs you more. I tried to buy a ticket for me to go back home, and the lady was looking up rates and everything, and I was like, ooh, it's a little steep. And I was like, well, do you offer any kind of military discount? She goes, oh, hold on a sec. Let me look. And she goes and puts it in. It went up by $50. And she was like, what the fuck? Like the girl on the phone got pissed off. And she's like, hold up. Did you say that you were in school? And I was like, well, I'm taking online classes. She goes, fuck it, good enough. And she puts in a student discount. It dropped by 100. And she was like,
that tells you how you're regarded.
That's some fucking bullshit.
That's like the guys in my neighborhood. Because we're friends, for you only $200.
Yeah, exactly.
You sold it to Tony for $50.
There's only
put
a
some
couple
more
places
mozzarella on
that
that shit, Sal.
£100 is still £100. Not when the price is £200. It's not. And certainly not when you've got Liberia's deficit and you skyrocket. Jesus,
What was that?
duck's ass you are.
That's layer cake, isn't it?
What?
Is that layer cake?
No.
Oh, especially that Liberia's deficit. Where did I hear that one? I was like, that's a good line. You got Liberia's deficit in your pocket.
Liberia's deficit and you skyrocket. No, it's Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Guy Ritchie, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we have been going for good 2 hours and 42 minutes. We stopped talking about writing a long time ago.
No, we hit everything, and the last one was actually really good, and there wasn't much to really say about it.
That's true. Well, to be perfectly honest, we told a bunch of stories that we should probably all seriously consider turning into some kind of a fucking comic or novel or something.
My dad being made like an effigy of St. Peter, like by his father.
Gosh, okay.
I could tie in these
Should we
war
dip 'em in
stories
oil?
into writing. When I came up with my comic book 9-Ball, I mean, it was 9-Ball, but originally I called them 9 Lives because it was basically that character was my alter ego and how many times I survived the Grim Reaper growing up. So basically, it came from that. It really came from that I escaped death so many times. Like, so did this guy in the story. So that's I'm tying it in.
All right. Well, I think that this is a great way to wrap it up.
George
Thank you
Lucas
guys so
based
much
Mos
for
Eisley
hanging
off
out.
my father's family, so that's how I get all his royalties. So.
Thank you guys for hanging out with us on the season finale of season 1 of Writing Prose. I almost said episode 1. My brain stopped for half a second. Let's go around the room real quick and let everybody say goodbye as I ruin my green screen. Luke Stone, you are up, sir.
Yes, please visit LukeStoneStudios.com. That's Luke Stone Studios with an S on the end.com. You can go by there, find me on social media, sign up for my mailing list, and please click that button at the top. It takes you right to my Indiegogo. I've got 20 days, 21 days, who knows, 20-ish days left on that Indiegogo. And so we are less than $500 away from meeting our funding goal. Please help me out with a like, a share, retweet, and even a pledge. If you don't want to buy the whole thing, you can at least buy Luke a cup of coffee. So there's that option. So there you go. You got to fuel the madness. So
always buy a Luke a cup of coffee.
Yeah.
I just want to point out, I'm like 99% sure this asshole has been hanging out in the fucking chat the whole time, and he waits until now to come in.
I told him to, because I got
I made
mind
it.
control over Phil.
Yeah, Will.
Such a
begged me.
jerk. Why are you just now coming in, Phil?
I was eating pie.
Oh, that's a great excuse.
No.
What kind? Apple, cherry, blue,
It
blueberry?
was peach berry.
Ooh, never had that one.
Good.
I got mind control over Phil. When he's here, he's like, shut the fuck up. But when he leave, I keep on talking again.
All right. DMH.
Yeah, I'm the other Luke on the panel here. I'm Death Metal Hero on Twitter, Instagram. Apparently, I have a Facebook page that I neglect the hell out of. Come hang out when I do the sing along of Doom. Monday. I've got a topic list with our buddy Jason Bascom, Unhinged Entertainment. While you're at it, go back Absolute on Indiegogo now. I've got a couple of things in the works. Cyberpunk story, horror anthology with Shae, and a new show that will be a lot of fun. So stay tuned.
William, sir, you are up.
Is anybody even watching this? Like, I just get this image
We got
of
12 people watching right
Oh,
now.
okay. I just have this image of just Jason and Wolverine.
They're not talking in the chat.
No, I just like I said, I got an image of Jason and Wolverine, just the two of them in the chat, like playing fucking strip fucking
That's
chess.
just been there the whole time.
Because
too.
Wolverine's an exhibitionist, he's like, I always win. You know.
Wow. All right.
Wait, Jesus. So these are the things that go on inside your head, is it?
Yes, I'm a sick son of a bitch.
Well,
Are you gonna pitch your book? Well,
Oh yeah, there's a book called Black Flag, run by a very sober individual named Dan Frega, which I'm sure most of you are watching his show instead of this one, but fuck you. And it's Black Flag is wonderful. It's being laid out by a pink bunny. We're getting there. It's going good. And I gotta take a piss, and I pass it over to Frankie, who got thrown through a wall.
Go, Frankie.
Got thrown through a wall, yeah. I wrote Through the Woods. Vinny's the artist. It is still on Indiegogo. It's
And he
hardcover.
signed mine. I got mine signed by him.
98 pages. Comes with a free bookmark. Art.
It is
Yeah,
sick, dude.
that's
Sick.
still in demand.
Yes.
Thank you. Hey,
It's a
Thank
very,
you.
very good read.
and still available on Indiegogo.
Hey, Phil. What'd you think of the show that you watched and didn't join in at all in?
I thought it was great. I loved all the words that were spoken.
Wow.
Such a jerk.
What
And
word
Will
in
is
particular?
He comes
I
in for the
love Will's
plug.
tweet.
The
Yeah,
emphatic
you-
use of the word "the" very impressed me in this episode.
You get like 10 seconds to plug your shit.
Back to Lost Pages. That's it.
There you go.
That's all you deserve.
I don't even deserve that. I take it back.
Oh, that's
Back it tomorrow.
hilarious.
Don't even back it tonight. Back it tomorrow.
Yeah, so
One
Jason,
more time in Bisley covers.
Jason said Dad ended a while ago. People left his stream to go watch Ethan. And then Ethan ended a while ago too.
And
then,
they all
everybody
went to
just went to bed. So, whatever, it's
Well,
fine.
thanks for the 12 diehards here hanging out.
That's a normal progression.
I appreciate the people who stayed.
I appreciate all of you guys for watching. Thank you for making this a really fun kind of finale right before Shae goes on a very, very much needed vacation. And Writing Prose will be back sometime in October. I'm not going to tell you when because that would require me to actually have a plan. But we will be back for season 2. We will cover a couple of the stuff that we've already covered, but with some new panelists. And if you guys have anything that you want covered or that you think would be awesome to see on Writing Prose, please let me know. Drop me a line, comment here. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Red Valkyrie. And hit that bell for notifications, and so you can be around when we have our super awesome giveaway in October. I've got a lot of stuff that I'm going to be giving out there. There's a lot of really awesome comics, art, all sorts of cool stuff. So thank you guys so much for hanging out, and we'll catch y'all next time. See you later.
Thank you.
Chelsea with a straight up hoe.